Chapter 141. Xin Yao and I set foot on the road to go shopping. Xin Yao drove very fast, and before long, we arrived at the Central Plaza. The Central Plaza was the shopping mall with the most complete collection of clothing brands in a city, including the international and domestic brands. All of them were gathered here. On the second floor of the Central Plaza, there was a shop in the middle. It was the shop of the international brand that had signed a contract with Xin Yao. And the clothes that Xin Yao had designed for this season just happened to be selling very well in this shop. After arriving at the Central Plaza, Xin Yao and I directly rushed there. As soon as Xin Yao and I entered the shop, an enthusiastic salesperson greeted us. She smiled at us and said, "Welcome. How can I help you?" Xin Yao didn't turn around to look at her. "Go and find your manager," she said loudly. Xin Yao's arrogant tone stunned the salesperson and me. I pulled Xin Yao and said in a low voice, "Why are you so stiff? They're asking you to work hard to earn money. Don't be so angry." Xin Yao shook her head and whispered in my ear, "It's okay, sister-in-law. I know their manager. I need to talk to him about something. Besides, I've just started. If they can't stand my temper, how can they deal with the customers? I also have shares in this brand, so I'm a small shareholder. I can't just let anyone be qualified to be a salesperson here. Sister-in-law, don't worry." She winked at me. I recognized Xin Yao's marketing skills. After listening to her explanation, I didn't ask any more questions. The salesperson was stunned for a moment. Then, she smiled and handed us 2 glasses of water. She looked at us and said politely, "I'm sorry, ladies. I didn't treat you well just now. Please don't mind. Please have a seat. I'm going to find the manager. Please wait for a moment." Then, the salesperson left. Xin Yao and I sat on the sofa in the shop and waited. There were a lot of customers coming in and out of the shop. Xin Yao smiled when she saw the number of customers and the amount of consumption. It seemed she was very satisfied with her design. After waiting for about 5 minutes, a well-dressed man walked in front of us. He looked at us with a smile and said, "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. I was just receiving a group of guests and was a little late. My apologies." Xin Yao put the cup on the coffee table, then looked up at the man and said, "Yo, I haven't been here for a while, and you're already so forgetful. You even forgot about me, a designer. It seems you're really busy." Xin Yao was still as arrogant as ever. The man was stunned at first, and then he seemed to remember something. He looked at Xin Yao with a smile and said, "Ah, I remember now. So it's Miss Duanmu. What brings you here today? I'm sorry I didn't treat you well." He turned to the salesperson and said, "Why didn't you tell me it was Miss Duanmu? If you had, I would have rushed over immediately." The salesperson looked like she wanted to say something, but then stopped. It was obvious she didn't know what was going on. Xin Yao looked at the salesperson, then turned to the manager and said, "That's enough. You don't have to say anything. I'm looking for you for business." Xin Yao stood up and looked around. Then she asked, "What about this season's new products? Where are they? Bring them all to me. My sister-in-law wants to pick." Okay. I'll go right away." Then the manager turned and left with the salesperson. Xin Yao sat down and picked up the cup of water. I looked at Xin Yao and said, "You're too strict. I prefer when you're with me. You're gentle and cute. I'm not used to your strict attitude." Xin Yao pouted at me and said, "Sister-in-law, don't laugh at me. I treat my family members very gently, and I treat my friends very seriously. But when it comes to my colleagues and work, I must be strict. I don't believe that any of my colleagues will do their best. If they don't do their best, then the one who loses the most will be me. I don't want the clothes that I design to be pointed at and criticized by the buyers who come to patronize me." "Then I understand. You want to save face." I immediately guessed Xin Yao's thoughts. Xin Yao shook her head vigorously. Her face flushed red as she said, "That's not it, sister-in-law. I'm telling you the truth. I've gone to a shop in another city several times, pretending to be a buyer. I've really found a lot of problems. Some are problems with the attitude of the shop assistants, some are problems with the inventory, and It's all a mess. There are too many problems. I've summed them all up and dealt with them. This can be considered a private visit. That's a sort of private investigation. Don't you think you're doing something superfluous? You're tiring yourself out. You have to do everything yourself. Don't you think you're tired? I stroked Xin Yao's hair and looked at her worriedly. Xin Yao winked at me and smiled happily. It seemed that in her eyes, there was no room for carelessness when it came to work. What the hell are you guys doing? While Xin Yao and I were chatting enthusiastically, we heard a woman's shout from behind us. Xin Yao and I put down the glass of water and turned around to take a look. It just so happened that we saw a 40-year-old woman throwing a piece of clothing from the shop to the ground and ruthlessly stomping on it a few times with her feet. I glanced at Xin Yao. She was tightly gripping her glass. It was clear that she was very angry. The woman was still shouting and yelling, which attracted a lot of onlookers. The store manager also rushed over to understand the situation. Xin Yao and I were standing not too far away. We could see that the woman's attitude was very bad. She kept yelling at the store manager and didn't stop stomping on the clothing. From time to time, she would stomp on it a few more times. Seeing that the woman wasn't done, Xin Yao couldn't take it anymore. She picked up her wine glass and threw it in the woman's direction. It heavily smashed next to the woman's feet. The woman didn't have time to dodge and was startled. She looked at us and shouted, Who? Get out here for this old lady. Who gave you face? You dare to throw something at me? Xin Yao sneered and walked towards her. Xin Yao was 10 centimeters taller than the woman. In terms of momentum, she had already suppressed the woman. Xin Yao walked in front of the woman and looked her up and down. She shook her head and crossed her arms. I threw it. What are you going to do about it? Xin Yao had already angered the woman. The woman pointed at Xin Yao and said, You, what do you want to do? I'm telling you, don't be so shameless. Be careful or I won't be polite to you. Don't think that I can't beat you just because you're taller than me. Chapter 142. Xin Yao sneered and looked at the clothes that were still on the ground. She bent down and picked it up. She patted the clothes and looked at the woman and said, I don't want to do anything. You are disturbing this young Mrs. ears by shouting and yelling. The woman seemed to understand after hearing Xin Yao's words. She looked at Xin Yao and said, I thought it was something else. So it's this. Since you don't want to listen, you can plug your ears. The woman glared at Xin Yao. Xin Yao looked at the woman and said, That doesn't matter. But you, why did you step on such a beautiful dress? It has nothing to do with you. Who do you think you are? You're just a little girl. You haven't even grown out your hair yet. Since when did you have the right to yell at me? Get the hell back home. The woman glared fiercely at Xin Yao. I knew the situation wasn't good, so I secretly told Suri about it through WeChat. Suri replied that he would be there soon. Only then did I calm down a bit. The store manager walked over to Xin Yao and whispered into Xin Yao's ear, Miss Duanmu, let me take care of this. It won't be good if she gets angry and hurts you. Xin Yao shook her head and looked at the woman. No need. I won't spoil someone who doesn't respect my design. You go and clear the crowd of onlookers. The manager nodded and dismissed the crowd of onlookers. Xin Yao looked up at the woman and said, It doesn't matter who I am. Don't you want to solve the problem now? Let's solve it one by one. First, tell me why you stepped on this dress. Xin Yao held the dress in front of the woman. The woman was startled and took 2 steps back. The woman looked at Xin Yao and pointed to a nearby salesperson. I like this dress. This woman said she didn't have a size I could wear. I told her to bring me the largest size, but she still said I couldn't wear it. She didn't bring it to me, so how did she know I couldn't wear it? Wasn't he mocking me? How can I bear it? Xin Yao glanced at the waiter. The waiter lowered his head in embarrassment. It seemed that this woman was telling the truth. Xin Yao turned to look at the woman and said, You can try another one. This brand has a lot of loose-fitting designs. You can wear them all with your figure. But I only like this one. The woman's attitude was very firm. She looked at Xinyao and said, I never care about the price when I look at things. I only care about the style. I only like this one. Xinyao turned her head to look at the waiter and said, Is this the largest size in my hand? The attendant nodded. Xinyao continued, Go and find me a pair of scissors and a set of needles and thread. Go now. I quickly ran to Xinyao's side. I glanced at the woman, then back at Xinyao. Little Xinyao, you're not thinking of changing your clothes right here, are you? Hearing my question, the woman also looked at Xinyao. What? You want to change it? I didn't say I wanted this dress. You guys better watch carefully. She wants to change it herself. If you ruin it, I won't be responsible for paying for it. The waiter handed over a pair of scissors and a needle and thread. Xinyao took the clothes to the tea table and began to change them. The woman seemed worried and wanted to go over to take a look, but was stopped by me. I said to her, It's best if you don't disturb Xinyao's work. She doesn't like to be disturbed when she's working. If there's anything wrong with the changes, you'll have to bear the responsibility. Hearing me say that, the woman was scared and stood to the side, watching from a distance. While Xinyao was busy, Suri ran in through the door. I looked up and saw him. He walked over to me. Because of this, a lot of people had gathered at the door. Everyone was looking at Xinyao, waiting to see how Xinyao would change the dress. Suri looked at the scene. He walked over to me and whispered, Young lady, I've heard everything from you. What's the situation now? What's Xinyao doing? Shoo, I whispered. Xinyao is focused on her work. You'll understand in a moment. Suri covered his mouth and nodded. All of our eyes were on Xinyao, who was focused on her work. Looking at Xinyao's figure, Suri whispered in my ear, This is the first time I've seen Xinyao work so hard. She's so beautiful. I'm deeply attracted to her. I whispered to Suri, Me too. Xinyao is the most beautiful when she's working. I like her like this too. While the two of us were staring at her, Xinyao stopped her work. She raised the dress and smiled. I'm done. Suri and I hurried to her side. I looked at the dress Xinyao had changed and couldn't help but admit that her craftsmanship was excellent. The overall style of the dress wasn't changed much. Instead, she added a lot of fancy designs. Xinyao held the dress and smiled at Suri and me. Then, she walked to the woman and handed her the dress. Try it on. The woman looked at Xinyao in shock. She took the dress, but didn't enter the fitting room. Xinyao looked at her and said, Go. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. The woman nodded and entered the fitting room with the dress. I walked to Xinyao's side and rubbed her hair. Girl, you must be tired. Why did you think of changing clothes? I just happened to have nothing to do. Besides, the waiter was right. She really can't fit into that dress. Customers are too stubborn, so it's natural for the waiter to have a hard time dealing with them. For people like her, it's necessary to fix them. Xinyao sighed. She happened to see Suri and gave Suri a naughty wink. After a while, the woman walked out of the fitting room. The scene was filled with sighs of admiration. I turned around and saw that Xinyao had changed the dress that the woman couldn't fit into a loose-fitting dress. Not only did she fit, but she also looked very slim. Some of the onlookers couldn't help but take out their phones to take pictures. Xinyao turned her head and looked at the woman. She was very satisfied. She walked in front of the woman and smiled. How is it? Do you like it? The woman looked at herself in the mirror and said, It's too beautiful. It's really too beautiful. It's just as beautiful as the original. No, it's even more beautiful than the original. I must buy this one. I'll buy it. It seemed she was very satisfied. Xinyao looked at her and said, It just fell on the floor, so it's dirty. You should take it off and give it back to me. If you really like it, I'll recommend that the store release this dress in the next season. Chapter 143. No, no, no. I want this one. How much is it? I'll buy it. When the woman heard that Xinyao wanted to take back the dress, She quickly took 2 steps back and refused. Xinyao smiled and looked at her. Now that you want this dress so much, do you still think it's not good? Hearing Xinyao's question, the woman felt embarrassed instead. She stood at the side and lowered her head while tightly tugging at the corner of her clothes. Xinyao looked at her and said, "How about this? I won't make things difficult for you. I'll give you this dress." Seeing that Xinyao was going to give her the dress, the woman excitedly jumped up and shouted, "Really? That's great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for my bad attitude just now. I apologize." Xinyao nodded, looked at her and said, "Very good, I accept this apology. I won't hide it from you. I'm the chief designer of this brand, and it's also very coincidental. The style you've taken a fancy to was designed by me. Although I brought my family here to purchase, but I heard that the customer was dissatisfied with this dress. I still have to deal with it." When the woman heard that Xinyao was a designer, she was so scared that she didn't dare to speak. At this time, Suri understood the reason. He walked over to Xinyao and looked at the woman. "You probably don't know, but any dress designed by Xinyao can be sold at an international auction house. Your disrespect to the dress today is disrespect to Xinyao, but our Xinyao kindly took care of it for you. Don't push your luck." When the woman heard Suri's words, she was so scared that her whole body was trembling. Xinyao pulled Suri's hand and looked at the woman. "Okay, don't be afraid. You can take this dress. Our store will be open for business. Thank you." The woman was stunned for a moment. Then she ran out of the store with her purse. After watching the woman leave, I let out a long sigh. I said to Xinyao, "Silly girl, how could you be so bold as to expose your identity? What if someone sets their eyes on us? We didn't bring any bodyguards with us this time. How am I going to explain this to Mom and Dad? You little fool." Xinyao glanced at Suri, threw herself into his arms, and said softly, "What are you afraid of? I still have Suri Gij. Having Gij Suri to protect me is enough. Gij Suri treats me the best. He won't let me get hurt, right?" Xinyao raised her head and kissed Suri. Suri's face turned red. He leaned close to Xinyao's ear and said softly, "What are you doing? There are so many people here, it's not good to see." Suri's eyes wandered. He was still a young and inexperienced child. I looked at the two of them loving each other and felt very happy. I smiled at them and said, "You two, can't you consider the feelings of a soon-to-be single person? Why do you have to show off your love in front of me and let me see it?" Xinyao and Suri let go of each other's hands and looked at me with an embarrassed smile. The three of us went to Xinyao's shop and chose 2 sets of clothes. They were both chosen by Xinyao for me, and they were indeed very beautiful. After walking through the shop, we decided to look at the shoes. As we walked, I felt like someone was following us, but I couldn't be sure. Xinyao probably didn't notice. As we walked, she talked the whole way. I turned to Suri and said softly, "Suri, do you feel like something's not right?" Suri didn't look at me. He lowered his voice and said, "Big miss, you also felt it? I can't be sure who it is yet. Don't say anything. Pretend that you and Xinyao go into the same shop. I'll find an opportunity to go around and check it out." Okay. Coincidentally, we passed by a shop. I pointed at a pair of shoes and said to Xinyao, "Ah, this pair of shoes is very beautiful. Let's go take a look." I took Xinyao's arm and walked into the shop. Indeed, after entering the shop, I didn't feel like someone was following us. I pretended to look at the goods, but my mind was still outside the door. I didn't know if Suri had found the people who were following us. They probably hadn't left yet and were probably waiting for us nearby. Xinyao and I were almost done with our shopping. She went to the counter to pay the bill. At this time, Suri walked in through the door. He walked to my side and said softly, "I checked. There are indeed 3 people in the shop across the street. We should be careful." I looked at Suri and said, "Let's wait for Xinyao to finish shopping, and then we'll leave." Suri nodded. He walked to Xinyao's side and whispered a few words in her ear. Xinyao nodded and quickly paid the bill. The 3 of us left. As soon as we turned and walked out of the shop, the 3 people who had been following us came up to us. I saw that they were 3 men. Suri saw them walk over and immediately blocked Xinyao and me behind him. He looked at them and said, "What do you want?" One of the men pointed at Xinyao and said, "Someone paid money to kill Big Miss Duanmu. We're just following orders. We don't care about anyone else. However, if you dare to meddle in other people's business, we don't mind taking a few more lives." I glared at them and said, This is a society governed by law. How can we let you commit murder in public?" Each of the 3 men drew a knife from his bosom and said, "Cut the crap." The 3 of them rushed towards us. Suri saw that the situation wasn't right, so he rushed over and tangled with the 3 of them. Since all 3 of them had weapons in their hands, I was afraid that they would hurt us. I pulled Xinyao and hid in a corner. After all, their target was Xinyao. I had to protect Xinyao first. I looked at Suri. It was already very difficult for him to fight against 3 people, but Suri didn't give them a chance to get close to us. It was obvious that he was doing his best to protect us. Suri's strength was running out, but I didn't know what to do. There were many people surrounding us, but no one was willing to help him. "Big Brother Suri." Xinyao shouted as she looked at Suri. I turned around and saw that Suri's arm had been cut by a knife. Blood was flowing out. I covered my mouth and looked at Suri, worried. At this moment, another knife cut Suri's arm. Suri. I was really worried about Suri, but I was also afraid that Xinyao would be in danger if she was alone. While I didn't know what to do, I heard Suri shout. He shouted in our direction, "Big Miss Xinyao, be careful." I came back to my senses and saw that Suri had many wounds on his body. Chapter 144. He was lying on the ground. Although he was tightly hugging one person, the other 2 people were still rushing towards us. I couldn't care less about that. I held Xinyao tightly in my arms. No matter what, I couldn't let her get hurt. I had already made all the preparations, prepared for anything bad. I hugged Xinyao tightly and closed my eyes. Just as I felt the air condense, I didn't get hurt like I expected. I slowly opened my eyes and saw a figure standing in front of me. The 2 people who were rushing towards us had already fallen to the ground. The figure looked familiar, but also unfamiliar. I patted Xinyao's shoulder and said, "It's okay. It's okay now." Xinyao sat up in my arms and turned to look at Suri, who was still on the ground. She ran over and hugged him, crying loudly. "Suri Gij, how are you? Are you okay?" "Suri Gij, I'm sorry. It's all because of me that you got so many injuries. I'll take you to the hospital now." Xinyao struggled to support Suri and took him out of the shopping mall. I also stood up and looked at the man standing in front of me. "Thank you. Thank you for helping me." "Thank you very much," I said softly. The man turned around and glanced at me. I took 2 steps back in surprise. It was none other than Duanmu, Quebec. He was carrying a lot of shopping bags in his hands. I glanced at them and saw that they were all women's brands. Although I was a little surprised, compared to this, I was more confused about why he would appear in this place. Duanmu K turned his head and looked at the 2 people who were struggling to get up from the ground. Before they could get up, Duanmu K kicked them back to the ground. Duanmu K looked at them fiercely and said, "Speak. Who the hell sent you here?" The 2 of them didn't open their mouths and continued to lie on the ground. Their bodies were filthy. The other person saw the opportunity and prepared to run away. Duanmu K casually took out a shopping bag and threw it directly at him. It directly hit him on the head, and that person immediately fell to the ground. "Ah, my Dior. Duanmu Gij, how could you throw my Dior? I spent a lot of effort to buy it. Fortunately, it didn't break." I heard a familiar voice. A girl walked out of the crowd. It was none other than Yu Xin. Yu Xin walked in front of the person who had fallen to the ground. She picked up the shopping bag and patted the dust off it. She pouted at Duanmu K, looking unhappy. It turned out that the 2 of them were also here to shop. Yu Xin hugged the shopping bag and walked in front of me. She held Duanmu K's arm and leaned on his shoulder. She looked at me and said, "What a coincidence, you're here too." She looked at the shopping bag next to me and said, "Looks like you bought a lot." I looked at UXIN and didn't say anything. I smiled at them and said, "Thank you. Thank you for helping us out. I'm really grateful. I won't disturb you anymore. I have to go check on Xinyao and Suri." I bent down to pick up the shopping bags scattered on the ground and gestured to them. Just as I was about to turn around and leave, I was unexpectedly stopped by Duanmu, Quebec. He stood in front of me and looked at me with a very serious expression. I didn't understand what he wanted to do, but I kept feeling that he had something to say, but he didn't open his mouth. I didn't ask too much, so I just waited to see what he wanted to do. Duanmu K turns his head to look at those men and says, "I'll give you guys one last chance. Who exactly arranged for you guys to assassinate Duanmu Xinyao? If you dare to speak a single lie, I'll immediately deal with you." Duanmu K's words were threatening. The three men looked at each other. One of the men looked at Duanmu K and said, "Company B sent us here. They said that Duanmu Xinyao's designs have completely hindered the development of Company B's clothing brand in a city. They want us to get rid of this thorn in their side. That way, Company B's clothing brand will become a hot-selling brand in a city." You're really ruthless. I've already called the police, so you don't have to think about running away. Before the police arrive, you won't be able to walk out of this mall. I've already sent people to seal this mall. Only when you're taken away by the police will it return to normal. Fortunately, it's not a big deal. Just treat those few kicks as a lesson to you. Not everyone can touch my Duanmu K's sister. Duanmu K stood in front of them and looked at them arrogantly as he spoke. I sneered and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. "What do you mean it's not a big deal? Suri is injured and has been sent to the hospital. Isn't that a big deal?" Duanmu K turned and glared at me. "Cold glaze, I'm trying to help you. You'd better think carefully before you speak. Otherwise, don't blame me for not caring about this matter." I looked at Duanmu, Quebec. His heart had become abnormally cold. I looked at him and said, "You've completely disappointed me. I thank you for saving us. I really do thank you from the bottom of my heart. However, I can't tolerate you ignoring the pain that Suri has caused himself by risking his life to protect us." While the two of us were arguing, the surrounding crowd didn't understand why we were doing this. I heard voices from the crowd. One person said, "What's going on? Why can't I understand? Isn't that man Duanmu's eldest son, young Master K? Isn't that woman Duanmu K's wife, and the eldest daughter of Red Minghui? Aren't they husband and wife? Why does their conversation sound so official? That's right. I heard that the two of them are getting a divorce. Is that woman next to them a mistress? No way. Then this is too shocking. The mistress and the wife have a direct confrontation. Hurry up and take a photo." Listening to the noisy discussion around us, I felt very uncomfortable. I felt like a clown being ridiculed here. I looked up at Duanmu K and smiled. "Let's not talk about this anymore. If you have something to say, let's talk at home. It's not convenient to talk here." I took the things and walked past Duanmu, Quebec. I felt very uncomfortable. I didn't know when it started. The two of us used to be so in love, but now whenever we saw each other, we would argue and even fight. My heart was in pain, and I didn't know how to face it. As soon as I took 2 steps, Duanmu K grabbed my arm. Before I could react, Duanmu K had already pressed me against the wall. He looked at me and reached out to hold my chin. His face moved closer, and in front of everyone, he kissed me deeply on the lips. Chapter 145. I used all my strength to push Duanmu K away, but he held me tightly in his arms and I couldn't move. After a while, Duanmu K raised his head and opened his eyes to look at me. He touched my face and I couldn't read his eyes. However, I was sure that his sudden kiss wasn't because he loved me. The onlookers were shocked by our sudden actions. There was a lot of boos and I could hear them talking. "Oh my God. That's so romantic. Cabidan. Wow, that's so exciting. It seems that the rumors are fake. Who said that they were going to divorce? It's like they're the same person. It seems that rumors can't be trusted. Then why did they quarrel just now? I think Miss Lung didn't give young Master Duanmu a way out. You can't think like that. It's normal for young couples to quarrel. I think the two of them are very loving. Listening to the onlookers' discussion, I raised my head to look at Duanmu, Quebec. He was able to resolve the onlookers' discussion. It seemed that he was very smart. I turned my head to look at Yu Xian. Her expression was very ugly. Duanmu K's sudden actions probably made her very angry. I calmed down. I raised my head to look at Duanmu K and said, "Okay, I should go. You and Yu Xian can continue shopping. I won't disturb you." I glanced at Duanmu K and turned to leave. However, Duanmu K grabbed my arm. He pulled hard and I fell into his arms. Duanmu K hugged me. The onlookers sighed again. I was a little impatient. I looked at Duanmu K and said, "How long do you want to act? Is it fun to let me be played like a monkey in front of others? Let go of me." Duanmu K turned around and hugged my shoulder. He turned to look at Yu Xian and said, "I'll take the things back for you. You go home first." His cold words made me unable to understand Duanmu K's true thoughts. Yu Xian was so angry that her face turned red. She stood behind Duanmu K and clenched her fists. She looked at Duanmu K and tried to control her emotions. You. I could feel that Yu Xian wanted to bite me to death. Duanmu K waved at Yu Xian. He put his arm around my shoulder and walked out of the crowd. I glanced at the onlookers out of the corner of my eye. They hadn't dispersed yet. They just stood there and watched us. I shook my head helplessly and turned to look at Duanmu K, who was standing next to me. His eyes were fixed in front of him, looking at Duanmu K's side profile. He was still as handsome as ever, but the feeling between us had changed. Just then, Duanmu K suddenly turned around. He saw that I was staring at him in a daze. He asked, "What are you looking at?" Duanmu K didn't let go of his arm around my shoulder. Instead, he felt that it was natural. Walking with him like this, I suddenly remembered the good days I had with Duanmu, Quebec. I followed Duanmu K to the parking lot and walked to the front of his car. Duanmu K pulled me to the front passenger seat and opened the door. I couldn't help but say no before he stuffed me into the car and sat in the driver's seat. He turned to look at me, who was carrying a bunch of things. He frowned and reached out to throw all the shopping bags in my arms into the back seat. I stared at him, not daring to open my mouth. Duanmu K turned to look at me. I didn't dare to look at him while he looked at me. The two of us stood there awkwardly for a while. Finally, Duanmu K said, "Next time, no matter if you go out alone or with Xinyao, bring a few bodyguards with you. With different identities, the people who want to assassinate you will be different. This time, it could be Xinyao. Next time, it could be you." I looked at Duanmu K and nodded meaningfully. I understand. Thank you." Duanmu K looked at me, and the air froze again. Duanmu K looked at me. He suddenly moved closer to me and put the chair down. I lay down on top of him. His face was only a few centimeters away from mine. I blushed instantly. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't dare to look at him. My eyes kept wandering. Duanmu K reached out and lifted my chin. He looked at me and said, "Don't move." Hearing him say that, I actually didn't move. I looked at Duanmu K and said, "What are you doing?" "We're in the parking lot. Hurry up and get up." Duanmu K sneered and lowered his head to kiss my lips. I widened my eyes and pushed Duanmu K's shoulders with all my might, but I couldn't push him away at all. Duanmu K kissed my lips, and his hand reached into my shirt, slowly moving upwards. I grabbed his hand tightly, but I couldn't fight against his strength. My eyes were filled with tears as Duanmu K reached for my collar and unbuttoned my shirt. I grew more and more afraid. Helpless, I bit Duanmu K's lips with all my might. He stopped what he was doing and leaned beside me to wipe the corner of his mouth as he said softly, "You're really ruthless." I covered my chest with both hands and turned my head away from him. Duanmu K reached out his hand to touch my exposed stomach. I quickly grabbed his hand and looked at him. "Let go of me," I said. Duan Muke was stunned for a moment. Then, he pulled his hand away from my body. He looked at me and said, "Are you that scared of what I'll do to you?" I tried to cover my chest and turned away. "It's not that I'm scared, it's that I don't want to." I touched my belly gently. I didn't know if I had scared the baby inside. Suddenly, I felt as if Duan Muke was lying next to me. He said softly, "Don't be scared." I said, "I won't touch you. I just want to lean on you for a while." Duan Muke put his arm around me. I didn't resist. I could feel Duan Muke leaning on my shoulder. He just hugged me gently. It was very quiet. Gradually, my eyelids became heavier and heavier. Unknowingly, I fell asleep. This sleep was very deep. Perhaps it was because my body was still very weak and I had been frightened. It wasn't easy for me to relax my mind, so I naturally fell asleep. I didn't know how long I slept. When I woke up, I was lying on a bed. However, it wasn't Duan Muke's bedroom, nor was it my own bedroom. Looking at the decoration style, it was very similar to Duan Muke's villa in the suburbs. I got up from the bed. My messy clothes were already put on. Just as I was thinking about how I got here, how I was lying on the bed, and who helped me put on my clothes, I heard Duan Muke's voice from outside the door. Chapter 146. I listened carefully. He seemed to be on the phone. I heard him say, "I know she's with me. She's not going back today. She's staying in the villa. Don't worry, I won't do anything to her. Don't doubt me. Don't forget to tell Mom and Dad." "All right, how's Su Rui's health now?" "It's good that he's fine. Don't worry. He's been stitched up. He'll be fine after resting for a while." "All right, let's talk later. I'm going to check on her. Call me if you need anything." I sat on the bed. Duan Muke pushed the door open and walked in. When he saw that I was awake, he was surprised. Then he said, "You're awake? I saw that you were asleep, and since you were close by, I brought you here. I already talked to Xin Yao on the phone. I asked her to tell Mom and Dad that we won't be going back today. You can stay here without worry." I lowered my head and looked at my clothes. Then I looked at Duanmu, Quebec. "Oh, I know. I heard you talking on the phone. Did you put these clothes on me?" Duanmu K poured me a glass of water and placed it in front of me. He touched my forehead and said, "Yeah, it was me. Luckily, you don't have a fever. I didn't bring any clothes when I went out. I was afraid that you'd catch a cold when you fell asleep." I took Duanmu K's glass of water. I looked at him and said, "Thank you." Duanmu K watched me drink the water. He smiled and said, "You must be hungry. I made some food. Do you want to eat here or at the restaurant?" I looked at Duanmu K in disbelief. "You know how to cook?" Duanmu K looked at me and said, "I know how to cook, but I rarely cook. It's not convenient to order takeout, and I don't trust anyone to cook for me. That's why I bought some ingredients and cooked. I don't know if it's to your liking. I heard from Xin Yao that your cooking is really good, and that you're a first-class chef. I feel a lot of pressure. If it's not good, please don't mind." I looked at Duanmu, Quebec. I didn't understand why he was doing this. I looked at him and asked, "Why are you so good to me? Didn't you want to torture me to death? Why are you so good to me now? What do you mean?" Duanmu K stood up. He looked at me and said, "You are a woman full of mysteries. I'm very interested in you. Before I understand you completely, I don't want to let you go so easily." He wasn't telling the truth. His expression was very calm, but it was full of flaws. "You don't mean what you say." I looked at Duanmu K, signaling for him to speak his mind. Duanmu K thought for a moment and sat down next to me. He held my face and kissed my forehead gently. He looked at me and said, "I think I'm in love with you." I didn't know why, but when I heard Duanmu K's words, my heart ached. He already said that he loved me, so why was my heart still aching? Shouldn't this be the result I wanted? Why am I still in so much pain? My tears flowed out uncontrollably. Duanmu K saw that I was crying, so he reached out and held me in his arms. Duanmu K stroked my hair gently. He said, "Why are you crying?" Did I make you unhappy? Duanmuke paused for a moment, then he continued, I understand. I know that I went too far in the past. Can you forgive me? I want to pursue you officially. Even if we are divorced, I want to pursue you again. I suddenly thought of Han Hao. I thought of the scene when Han Hao proposed to me in the hospital. I suddenly sobered up. I pushed Duanmuke away. He sat opposite me with a blank face. I shook my head and said, No, Duanmuke, stay away from me. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Hurry up and leave me. My tears flowed out uncontrollably. Duanmuke sat in front of me without saying a word, but I could feel that he was starting to get angry. Why? Is it because of Han Hao? You two are already together, right? Duanmuke pressed his hands on my shoulders, and he questioned me fiercely. Before I could refute, my phone rang. It was similar to the scene from the other day. Could it be Han Hao again? It was too much of a coincidence. Before I could touch the phone on the bedside table, Duanmuke snatched it from me. He looked at the phone, and his expression became even more serious. It seemed that I was too harsh on him. He looked at me again and picked up the phone. I could clearly hear Han Hao's voice on the other end of the line. Duanmuke was about to snatch the phone when he pushed me down on the bed, his whole body on top of mine. My body was still weak, and no matter how hard I struggled, Duanmuke was still on top of me. He looked at me as he answered the call from Han Hao. Han Hao, you're really persistent. It's only been a few days, and you're already seducing my woman. It seems that we've been brothers for so many years, and we're really going to break up, Duanmuke said fiercely into the phone. Xiaoke? You're with Xiaoli? Where are you right now? What are you doing to Xiaoli? I'm telling you, don't hurt Xiaoli, otherwise I won't be polite to you. Han Hao's voice came from the other end of the line, and I cried even harder. Duanmuke sneered. He looked at me and reached out to grab my clothes. Hiss. Duanmuke tore my clothes. I screamed. Han Hao didn't know what happened on the other end of the line, and only heard him yelling, Duanmuke, what are you doing to Xiaoli? Hurry up and let her go. You can't hurt her. Duanmuke, don't go too far. If you have the guts, tell me where you are, and we'll deal with it alone. Don't hurt Xiaoli. Hearing Han Hao's words, Duanmuke's smile became even more evil. His hand continued to tear my clothes. Although I tried my best to protect my chest, I was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in front of him. I cried really hard. I guessed that Han Hao heard my voice, and that's why he was so agitated. Duanmuke said into the phone, Do you know? The more you care about my woman, the angrier I get, and the more I'll torture her. You heard her voice, right? Do you want to know what I'm doing to her? My upper body was almost completely naked in front of Duanmu, Quebec. I was still covering my chest, and Duanmuke's hand was unscrupulously touching my body. I was very uncomfortable, but I didn't dare to cry out. I was afraid that Han Hao would come, and that he would be hurt by Duanmu, Quebec. Han Hao yelled from the other end of the line, Duanmuke, let go of Xiaoli, and I'll agree to whatever you want, okay? Really? You'll agree to whatever I want? You said it, don't regret it. Duanmuke stopped his movements and said into the phone. Chapter 147. Han Hao paused for a moment, then said, I don't regret it. As long as you let Xiaoli go, I'll agree to anything you ask of me. Duanmuke sneered. He looked at me, who was still under his body. He leaned forward and kissed me hard on the cheek. I dodged and pushed him away with all my might. Duanmuke looked at me and said, I didn't expect him to care about you that much. But what about you? Who do you care about? Is it me or him? Duanmuke's words caused me to freeze. I covered my chest with both hands and turned my head, not daring to look at Duanmu, Quebec. Tears were still flowing from the corners of my eyes. Han Hao seemed to understand something. He said through the phone, Xiaoke, I told you, I'll listen to anything you say. Let Xiaoli go. What are you doing now? Duanmuke looked at me and said into the phone, Han Hao, I won't do anything to Xiaoli. Also, please don't call me again for 24 hours. Otherwise, the more you don't want anything to happen, the more I'll do something to her. Then Duanmu was about to hang up. I heard the other side of the phone yell, "Wait, Xiao Ke. Wait, Xiao Ke. Don't hang up." Duanmu asked doubtfully, "What else do you want?" Han Hao lowered his voice and said softly, "Can you let me talk to Xiaoli? Just for a moment." Duanmu looked at me and sneered. He handed me the phone and said, "Here, Han Hao wants to talk to you." I turned my head and took the phone. My tears couldn't stop flowing. I took the phone and held back my tears. With a sobbing voice, I said to Han Hao, "Han Hao, don't worry. I'm fine. Don't worry." Han Hao paused. I heard him say softly, "Xiaoli, don't cry. I might not be able to call you for a while. You have to be good and protect yourself. Xiao Ke already promised me that he won't do anything to you. If he does bully you, tell me. I'll fight him with my life." I nodded and said into the phone, "I know. I'll protect myself. You too." Before I could finish, Duanmu snatched the phone from my hand and hung up impatiently. He looked at me and said, "If you want to show off your love, do it when we meet. Don't be all lovey-dovey in front of me. You're still lying on my bed. Don't you know that?" I looked at Duanmu and didn't look at him anymore. He left my body. I quickly pulled the blanket over myself. My heart was tired and my head hurt. I listened to Duanmu footsteps. It seemed he had left the bedroom. I let out a sigh of relief. It was like a nightmare. There was sweetness and fear. I stopped crying and quietly lay on the bed. My shirt was torn, and I didn't know how to get out of bed. After a while, I heard footsteps again. Duanmu should be back. I turned my back to the door and didn't look at him. I didn't want to look at him. Duanmu walked to the bedside and threw a piece of clothing on the bed. He looked at me and said, "Get up and eat something. I found you some of my clothes. Put them on first." I grabbed the clothes and took off the pieces that were hanging on my body. After changing, I sat up. Duanmu carried a small table and placed it in front of me. Then, he placed the dishes on the table. Although the plates weren't big, each dish was exquisite. It seemed Duanmu cooking wasn't bad. He handed me a pair of chopsticks and said, "Eat. I don't know if it suits your appetite. If it doesn't, I'll find someone to make it for you." I lowered my head and ate. Duanmu kept putting food into my bowl. I could feel his eyes on me, but I kept my head down and didn't dare to look at him. I carefully tasted Duanmu food. It tasted good. Although I didn't have a big appetite, I felt like I had eaten a lot. When I was almost done, I put the chopsticks on the table and leaned against the headboard to look out the window. It was almost dusk, and the setting sun shone on the trees in the courtyard. The scenery was beautiful. Duanmu saw that I had finished eating, so he moved the small table downstairs. I could vaguely hear the noise downstairs. Thinking about how a young master like Duanmu would never do such crude household chores, it was hard to imagine what kind of scene it would be. Looking at the scenery outside the window, I wanted to go out for a walk. I lifted the blanket and got off the bed. I grabbed one of his jackets and put it on. When I walked out of the bedroom and reached the staircase, I saw Duanmu coming upstairs with a plate of fruit. We looked at each other. He was stunned at first, then asked softly, "What do you want to do?" I looked at him and answered, "I want to take a walk in the courtyard. I've been lying down for a long time. I want to take a walk." Duanmu looked at me and held out his hand. "Let's go. I'll go with you." I looked at Duanmu outstretched hand. At first I hesitated, but in the end I reached out and put my hand on his. Duanmu held my hand, and I slowly walked towards him. This feeling was just like when he had married me. Duanmu held the plate of fruit in one hand and pulled me with the other. He was afraid that I would lose my balance and fall. The two of us walked out of the room and into the front yard. The afterglow of the setting sun had yet to disperse, and the fragrance of the flowers in the yard wafted over. It was the same scene as when I had been here before. There was a swing in the corner of the yard, which I had requested to be designed. I walked over. Although I had built it, I hadn't played here for a long time. Duanmu could tell what I was thinking. He put the plate of fruit on the stone table and looked at me. Do you want to play? I turned to look at Duanmu, Quebec. I thought for a moment, then nodded. Duanmu K held my hand and helped me onto the swing. I tightly held onto the hemp rope on both sides of the swing. Duanmu K gently pushed my back, and I swung. Although the swing was small, I was very happy. It was as if I had returned to the time when I was young. I couldn't help but smile, and I was very happy. Duanmu K saw me smile, and his face broke into a smile as well. It was a smile that I hadn't seen in a long time. It was a smile that was different from his usual cold and evil smile. It was a smile that came from the bottom of his heart. I turned to look at Duanmu K, and I felt a little shy. Thank you, I whispered. Duanmu K stopped what he was doing. He reached out and hugged me from behind. It's a very strange feeling. I don't know why, but I really want to see you smile. Your smile is more beautiful than the flowers in this yard. But every time you show me an expression of fear, disappointment, and helplessness. Chapter 148. My heart was calm. I whispered to Duanmu K, "You're not who you used to be. I'm scared when I see you. That's why I've been avoiding you. I don't want to have any more conflicts with you. I've been injured too much, and I'm exhausted." Duanmu K walked up to me from behind. He knelt down on one knee and reached out to touch my face. His gentleness reminded me of the old him. I felt the warmth of his hand and closed my eyes. Duanmu K looked at me and said, "You look better now. You're a poisonous woman. I can't help but have feelings for you. Shaoli, don't leave me." Hearing Duanmu K's words, I opened my eyes and put down his hand. I looked at him and said, "You're suddenly so gentle, because you don't want me to divorce you, right?" Duanmu K looked at me and said, "You think too much. I really don't want to divorce you. I really have feelings for you." I stood up from the swing and looked at him. "Forget it. Let's just get a normal divorce. I don't want to have too much to do with you. I'm sorry. You've hurt me too deeply." I walked past Duanmu, Quebec. Before I could take 2 steps, Duanmu K grabbed my arm from behind. He hugged me tightly and whispered in my ear, "Cold Glaze, you can't run away. Think about it. Han Hao has promised me that as long as he doesn't hurt you, he will listen to me. You have to think about your decision carefully. His safety is in your hands." I was so angry that I trembled. I clenched my fists and tried to shake him off. Duanmu K held me tightly in his arms. I struggled for a while, but it was useless. I whispered, "You can't hurt Han Hao. You absolutely can't." Duanmu K leaned close to my ear. He softly whispered into my ear, "That will depend on how you do it." I tightly closed my eyes, not daring to move, nor did I say anything. Duanmu K carried me in his arms. I stared at him and said, "What are you doing?" Duanmu K looked at me and said, "Doing what I have to do." Before I could say anything, Duanmu K carried me to the house. I didn't dare to move. I was afraid that if I accidentally fell, I would hurt the baby. I had to act according to the situation. I hoped that nothing would happen between us. If I lost the baby because of this, I would be in a lot of pain. Duanmu K carried me upstairs and into the bedroom. He placed me on the bed. I subconsciously covered my chest with my hands. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at me. He gently stroked my hair, his eyes filled with love. Before I could react, Duanmu K had already taken off his shirt. His bare upper body slowly approached me. I covered my chest with all my strength. I turned my face to the side and closed my eyes. I felt that Duanmu K was taking off his shirt. I thought about it and guessed that he was taking off his pants. I didn't want to look. I just wanted Duanmu K to not touch me. I couldn't. Just as my thoughts were running wild, Duanmu K pressed on top of me. He grabbed my chin and said, "Look at me." My eyes were still closed. Duanmu K shouted at me, "Look at me." I opened my eyes in shock. I saw that he had taken off all his clothes and was pressing on top of me. It was obvious that he was going to do something. I was still covering my chest tightly. Just then, Dwamuke looked at me and sneered. He quickly took off all my clothes. I could only try my best to resist. His hands wandered all over my body. My tears flowed down again. I felt really uncomfortable, but I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. I pushed Dwamuke away and shouted, "Don't touch me. Let me go. I beg you. Don't touch me. Let me go. I beg you." Dwamuke looked at me and sneered. He touched my body gently and said, "What are you afraid of? Why are you so resistant? Do you have no feelings for me? Or do you not want me to touch you? Or do you only want Han how to touch you?" I cried even harder. I couldn't tell him that I was pregnant. I could only beg him over and over again. I begged him not to touch me. I didn't know what to do. Gradually, my cries became softer and softer. Perhaps I had cried for too long, and I had no strength left. My consciousness became more and more blurry. In the end, I couldn't remember anything. I only remembered that when I was in a daze, someone kissed my forehead gently. That kiss made me feel very happy. When I woke up again, it was already nighttime. I was lying on the bed, covered with a blanket. I touched myself and found that I wasn't wearing any clothes. I sighed and accidentally touched a hand. I was so scared that I retracted my hand. I turned my head and saw Dwamuke's sleeping face. It turned out that he had fallen asleep with me in his arms. I tried hard to remember what had happened before I lost consciousness, but I couldn't remember if he had done it with me. I wanted to confirm it, but I accidentally touched Dwamuke's butt. My face turned red, and I retracted my hand. I was afraid that I would wake him up, so I could only lie in his arms without moving. I couldn't tell if we had done it or not. Perhaps it was because of my movements. Dwamuke woke up. I didn't dare to pretend to be asleep. As soon as he moved his hand away from me, I took the opportunity to move to the side of the bed. Unexpectedly, Dwamuke hugged me again. He looked at me and said, "You're awake? Why are you moving away? Are you afraid that I'll eat you?" I didn't say anything. I just turned my back to him and tried to break free from his arms. Dwamuke pressed my shoulder and turned me over. I was facing him. Thinking that I wasn't wearing any clothes, I covered my chest with my hands. I didn't dare to look at him. I lowered my head and closed my eyes tightly. Dwamuke cupped my face. He looked at me with his eyes closed and smiled. "You don't even want to look at me?" I didn't say anything and kept my eyes closed. Dwamuke leaned over and kissed me gently on the forehead. He held me in his arms and said softly, "I know what you're worried about. Don't worry. You lost consciousness just now, but I didn't do anything to you. Although I'm curious why you're so resistant to me, I don't want to force you to do something you don't want to do. Sometimes I can't help but want you, but I still try to control myself." Hearing him say that, I could only reply, "Thank you. Thank you for your understanding." Chapter 149. Dwamuke and I had a peaceful night. We lay on the bed and talked for a long time. He told me a lot of things about himself, things that I had never understood before. Suddenly, I felt that Dwamuke was very talkative and wasn't as cold as usual. He hugged me in his arms the whole night. I felt his warmth, and my fear was gone. Instead, I felt very calm. From time to time, I would think how good it would be if Dwamuke could always be like this. The two of us talked until late at night. Unknowingly, the two of us fell asleep in each other's arms. I slept soundly that night. Although I wasn't wearing anything, Dwamuke was like a teacher. He didn't do anything to me. He just held me in his arms and patted me gently to coax me to sleep. Just like the beginning, perhaps deep down in my heart, I still loved him. I slept very deeply that night. When I woke up, it was already the next morning. The moment I opened my eyes, Dwamuke leaned close to me and kissed my forehead gently. I was stunned by his sudden kiss. I stared blankly in his arms. Dwamuke caressed my face gently and kissed it again. Then he got up from the bed and left the bedroom wearing only a bathrobe. I turned around and saw the clothes that had been thrown aside because of what happened yesterday. I shook my head helplessly. I wrapped myself in the blanket and got out of bed. I put on the clothes and looked at the messy bedroom. I decided to tidy it up and stretch my body. It wasn't good to lie on the bed all the time. I didn't want to care about what Duanmuke was doing. It felt like we had returned to the days when we were just the two of us. I was touched. I was touched that I could still feel the warmth of the past, even though there were less than 4 days left. When the bedroom was almost tidied up, I turned and walked into the bathroom. After washing up, I looked at myself in the mirror. I obviously looked haggard. It seemed that my body was still weak. My complexion didn't look good either. I was very pale, and my lips didn't have any color. My stomach rumbled. It seemed that I was hungry. It was rare for me to have an appetite, but then I remembered that the villa might not have any ingredients. I didn't know what to do for breakfast. I sighed and turned my head. I saw Duanmuke standing at the door. I was shocked and took 2 steps back. I looked at him with a frightened face. Duanmuke looked at me and smiled. "You must be hungry. I can hear your stomach protesting." He pointed at my stomach. I suddenly felt a little embarrassed. I turned my head to the side, not wanting to look at him. Duanmuke walked in front of me. He took my hand and led me out of the bathroom. We walked downstairs. As we walked, he said, "I've prepared some simple food. Eat it first. If you're not full, we'll go out to eat." Duanmuke pulled me to the dining room. He had already prepared a table full of food. There was soy milk, youtiao, steamed buns, and mixed vegetables. But it was obvious that he hadn't made any of this. I glanced at the table and looked back at him. "You didn't make this, did you?" Duanmuke said, "Yeah, we don't have anything at home. I went to the market early this morning to buy it." I looked at the time and looked back at him. It's 9:30. The breakfast shop should have closed long ago. Duanmuke sighed. "All right, I can't hide anything from you. I woke up at 6 in the morning. I saw that you were sleeping soundly, so I wanted to make a porridge and wait for you to wake up for breakfast. But I found that we didn't even have rice at home. I saw that there was still time, so I drove to the market nearby to buy breakfast for you. I kept it in the incubator until you woke up. Eat it while it's hot. It won't taste good when it's cold." I couldn't control myself anymore. I shook off Duanmuke's hand. I stood in front of him and screamed at the top of my lungs. "Why are you so good to me? Why are you suddenly so gentle? I don't have any feelings for you anymore. Why do you give me hope and torture me? What are you thinking? Why do I not love you anymore? Why can't I let you go? Duanmuke, tell me, why is this happening? Why did we become like this?" I couldn't stop my tears from flowing out. He didn't say anything. He just stood in front of me and looked at me quietly. Seeing that he didn't respond, I felt even worse. I reached out and slapped him. He didn't dodge. I took a step forward and looked at him. "Why don't you dodge? We're going to divorce. Why do you still want to remarry me? What are you thinking? What do you want to change me into? Will you only be happy when you see me being tortured to death by you? Duanmuke, it's over between us. We can't be together anymore." I felt as if all the resentment that I had accumulated over the past few days had exploded out in an instant. I didn't know if Duanmuke was listening to me seriously. I only knew that after I said those words, my heart was in great pain. Duanmuke reached out and held me in his arms. He didn't say anything. He let me hit his back and bite his shoulder. My tears soaked his clothes. He didn't let me go. He just held me tightly in his arms. I came back to my senses. I grabbed his clothes and cried my heart out. After a while, Duanmuke hugged me and said softly, "Don't be sad. Since you want a divorce so much, I'll do as you wish. Your body is very weak. If you continue to be so emotional, it will affect your body." He just hugged me and comforted me softly. I leaned into his arms. That strange yet familiar feeling pierced my heart. Duanmuke let go of me. He helped me sit down on a chair and put a bowl of soy milk in front of me. Then he looked at me and said, "Hurry up and eat breakfast. Don't starve yourself." He took a tissue and wiped the tears on my face. He patted my back gently and said, "Eat slowly. Don't worry. I bought a lot. I didn't dare to look at him because I didn't know how to face him. It turned out that no matter what a person turned into, whether they were a devil or an angel, as long as you loved them, you would never change your mind. The moment he said that he agreed to divorce, my heart was pierced. Was he disappointed too? I started to regret it. I regretted that I didn't insist on staying by his side. Instead, I pushed him away, and pushed him into someone else's arms. Duanmu K sat opposite me and ate breakfast with me in silence. We didn't speak. I could see his face from the corner of my eye. His face was full of disappointment. Chapter 150. After we finished breakfast, I helped Duanmu K clean up the dining table. Then, I stood in front of the French windows in the living room and stared at the flowers and plants in the courtyard. After Duanmu K finished cleaning up the kitchen, he stood next to me and watched the scenery with me. I turned to Duanmu K and said, "It's about time. Let's go home. I miss Xinyao and Mom and Dad." Duanmu K looked at me. "Can you stay with me for one more day?" I looked at Duanmu K and asked, "Why? We've already stayed for one night. Why do you want to stay for another day?" Duanmu K sighed. He walked in front of me and said, "In 3 more days, we'll have nothing to do with each other. After today, I've decided to take you home and leave for a few days. When the day comes to sign the divorce papers, I'll wait for you at the Civil Affairs Bureau." "Why do you want to leave? Where are you going?" I looked at Duanmu, Quebec. I didn't understand why he would say that. Duanmu K reached out and gently stroked my hair. "I don't know how to face you anymore. Under my cold exterior, my heart is actually very weak. It's just that my identity and my family won't allow me to be weak. I can only fight with all my might. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I've never cherished any of the women around me. When I woke up and met you, I thought you were the same as all the other women before you. You came for my money, my identity, and my family. I didn't know that I would really have feelings for you. I stubbornly insisted on divorcing you. But every time I saw you, every time I saw your eyes, my heart would tremble. Especially when I saw you and Han, how being so intimate. I was really angry. I was so angry that I wanted to hold you tightly in my arms. I wanted to completely separate the two of you. Although I said that I wouldn't forgive Han, Hao and you. Han Hao was my brother who grew up with me. I had feelings for you, and you and I were husband and wife in name. No matter how much my heart ached, how could I bear to do anything to you? Do you know how many things Han Hao had done for me? Many things threatened his life, but he never refused. He always did a lot of things for me that I couldn't do. To be honest, I owed him a lot, but I didn't know how to repay him. Now I know that Han Hao loves you very much, and you will be happy with him. As for you, even if I force you to be with me, even if I threaten you, you won't feel happy. I owe him, and I also want you to be happy. Now there's a way to get the best of both worlds, and that is for me to withdraw. This is for the best of both worlds, isn't it?" Duanmu K looked at me. His eyes were filled with sorrow. That expression made my heart ache as if it was bleeding. Duanmu K looked at me and reached out to hug me tightly. He gently stroked my hair and said, "So, can you stay with me for another day?" I didn't know how to refuse. I leaned into Duanmu K's embrace. This feeling was indescribable. I thought about it and nodded gently. Duanmu K stroked my hair and kissed my forehead gently. He held my face and said softly, "I have a present for you. Come with me." Duanmu K took my hand and led me out of the living room. We went to the sunroom in the corner of the courtyard. He said, "Wait for me." Duanmu K walked into the sunroom and took out a huge box. He handed it to me. He looked at me and said, "Open it and take a look. You will definitely like it." I watched as he reached out to open the lid of the box. The moment I opened the box, I was stunned. Inside the box was a white kitten with a pink bow. When I opened the box, it lifted its head and meowed gently at me. My heart melted. "It's so cute." I reached out and picked up the kitten. The kitten first sniffed my face, then meowed at me. It was so cute. I looked at Duanmuke and smiled. Thank you. How did you know I like cats? Duanmuke put down the box and looked at me. I heard from Xinyao that you really like cats. You raised a few in the States, but you didn't raise any after you came back. I asked the pet shop manager, and he said that most girls like this breed of cat. So, I brought it back for you. What do you think? Do you like it? I nodded and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. Yes, I like it. I raised this breed in the States. It's very clingy. Thank you. Thank you for the present. I raised my head and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. He was especially dazzling under the sunlight. My heart didn't hurt as much as before. I held the kitten in my arms and gently stroked it. It was like a child who hadn't seen the world, looking around. Sure enough, carefree innocence was the happiest. Duanmuke looked at me and said, "It doesn't have a name yet. Why don't you give it one?" Duanmuke reached out and gently stroked the kitten's head. The kitten lifted its head and sniffed his hand, then gently licked it. Then it looked at him with its big, cute eyes. I smiled and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. It likes you. Duanmuke looked at it and said, "Really? That's good. Let's call it Snowball. It's as white as snow and so pretty." I cupped the kitten and gently pressed it against my face. "Little Snowball, we have a name now. Little Snowball is so cute." I rubbed my face against Snowball's body. Duanmuke stood next to me and looked at me. "Xiao Li," he said, "I think I can see the way you raise a child. Will you be this gentle when you have your own child?" I blushed and looked at Duanmuke in embarrassment. I lowered my head and played with Snowball. Duanmuke looked at Snowball and said softly, "Little Snowball, from now on, only you can accompany Xiao Li. You have to stay by her side for me. Don't let her get hurt again. Don't let her be sad again." Hearing Duanmuke's words, my heart trembled. I raised my head and looked at him. His expression was still so helpless. Duanmuke and I played with Snowball for the whole day in the villa. Only when he was sleepy at noon did he hug me and sleep for a while. Duanmuke told me that he liked to hug me. He liked to hold me in his arms because that was the only way he could be sure that I belonged to him. That day, I didn't reject what he did to me. Of course, he didn't overstep his boundaries either. He just pampered me as if he was bidding me farewell. He wanted to leave me with the best memories and erase his past. Chapter 151. At night, Duanmuke and I cooked dinner together. After we finished eating, Duanmuke and I cleaned up. Duanmuke said to me, "Let's go. We should head back. Han, house should be waiting for you at the gate of your house in the city." I looked at Duanmuke and was stunned for a moment. Then I nodded. Duanmuke looked at me and smiled. He held my hand and led me out of the villa, the house that used to belong to us. I got in Duanmuke's car and followed him home. On the way, neither of us spoke. He was calm, and so was I. We drove at a moderate speed and arrived at Duanmuke's house at the appointed time. Just as Duanmuke had said, there was a man standing at the gate. It was Han Hao. When he saw Duanmuke's car drive over, he walked towards us. However, he didn't go straight to the front passenger seat. Duanmuke parked the car and got out. He and Han Hao exchanged a few words. Then, Han Hao turned around and walked to the front passenger seat. He opened the door and helped me get out of the car. Duanmuke looked at me and Han Hao. He smiled and then got in the car and left. After watching Duanmuke leave, before I had time to react, Han Hao pulled me into his embrace. He hugged me very tightly. Han Hao whispered into my ear, "You're finally back. You're finally back by my side. Do you know how worried I was when you left me for the past few days? What did Xiao Ke do to you yesterday? Did he bully you? Did he hurt the baby? He doesn't know yet, does he? If he knew you were pregnant, he wouldn't have let you divorce him no matter what." I whispered to Han Hao, "No, he didn't do anything. He just regretted what he did to me. He regretted that he insisted on divorcing me. He wanted to leave me with a beautiful memory. That's why he took care of me for a day. He was very good to me. He didn't do anything to make things difficult for me. I just feel that he's very similar to how he was before he lost his memory. Han Hao put his hand on my shoulder and looked at me. Are you tempted? You still have feelings for him in your heart. I'm fine. No matter what decision you make, I will support you and stay by your side. This is the promise I made to you. I won't go back on my words. Xiao Li, don't worry. I'll always be by your side. Han Hao hugged me and gently kissed my forehead. I knew that this man would always be by my side. He was sincere to me, and he didn't hesitate to treat me with sincerity. No, he and I have already reached an agreement. We have decided to peacefully divorce, and he has also decided not to appear in front of me for the next few days. When the day of the divorce arrives, he will appear and directly go through the divorce procedures. After that, the two of us will have nothing to do with each other. I leaned into Han Hao's embrace, my heart aching as I finished speaking. Han Hao hugged me and said, "No matter what, it's fine as long as you're safe. Has the baby in your belly been obedient? Has it been tormenting you? I was afraid that your pregnancy reaction would be too obvious, and he would notice." I looked at Han Hao and shook my head. It's fine. It's fine. My appetite has been better recently, so it should be normal now. After the divorce, I'll go to the hospital for a checkup. I've been shown off again. You two are showing off your love in public. Why don't you consider us? A familiar voice came from behind us. Han Hao and I quickly let go of each other and turned around. It was Xinyao and Suri. Xinyao looked at me and ran towards me. She threw herself into my arms and hugged me tightly. Little Xinyao, why did you come out? I looked at Xinyao and asked. Gij sent me a message, saying that you and Gij Han Hao were at the door. He asked me to come out and welcome you. In the end, you two showed off your love in front of me. Really, I hate it. Always showing off your love in front of me. Xinyao looked at me and pouted unhappily. I turned to look at Suri. Suri's complexion was obviously better, but there were still many bandages on his body. I looked at Suri and asked, Suri, how are you? Are your wounds better? Suri looked at me and said, Big miss, I'm much better. Don't worry. It's all thanks to Xinyao taking care of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have recovered so quickly. Suri smiled at me. Xinyao let go of me and turned to look at Suri. She put her hands on her hips and said, You still dare to say that? I clearly told you to stay in the hospital for a few more days to be observed, afraid that something might happen to your wounds. But what did you do? You just had to come back. No matter how much we tried to persuade you, your sister and I still wouldn't listen. Xinyao turned to look at me and said with a helpless expression, Sister-in-law, did you know? He's starting to have the fever. The doctor said that he's in danger, but he didn't believe it. What should I do? He's too stubborn. I'm not afraid of anything else. I'm just afraid that if he falls down, what should I do? After saying that, Xinyao's eyes turned red and glistened with tears. Han Hao and I looked at each other. Han Hao looked at Xinyao and said in a soft voice, I think you've misunderstood Suri. The reason he rushed back to your side wasn't because he didn't want to recover, but because he was afraid that you would get hurt, that you would fall into danger again. He was afraid that when he wasn't by your side to protect you, you would be bullied. If that really happened, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Suri, am I right? Han Hao looked at Suri and smiled. Suri stared blankly for a moment. Han Hao, why are you saying all this? He said in a soft voice. He turned to look at Xinyao. Xinyao was also looking at him with tears streaming down her face. Before Su Rui could speak, Xinyao threw herself into his arms and said, I'm sorry, Xiao Rui. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lost my temper with you. Chapter 152. We stood at the door and chatted for a while. Then, Han Hao said, Come on, let's go inside. Uncle and Auntie are probably waiting for us. I nodded, and the four of us entered the courtyard. As soon as we entered the house, we saw Duan Mutachio and Xiao Fengya waiting for us in the living room. When they saw me, they stood up and walked over to me. Xiao Fengya held my hand and looked at me worriedly. Xiaoli, are you okay? Are you feeling unwell? Yao Yao told me that Kei took you to the villa, and your father and I were worried sick. He didn't do anything to you. Did he? Did he hurt you? As Xiao Fengya spoke, she pulled my arm and looked around. She was worried that I might be injured. Holding Xiao Fengya's hand, I shook my head and smiled. Mom, I'm fine. I'm fine. Xiao Kei didn't make things difficult for me, and he promised that he wouldn't torture me anymore. He won't be back for the next 2 days, and he told me that he would only come back on the day of the divorce. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, and please forgive me. I can't be with Xiao Kei anymore. Although I still have him in my heart, he's not the same person anymore. I'm really sorry, but please don't worry. Our Lung clan and the Duanmu clan still have business dealings, and it has nothing to do with this. Don't worry, I've already talked with my father. In front of businessmen, it was always about mutual benefits. They didn't have feelings, only money. Duanmu Tachio looked at me and smiled. It's okay, it's okay. It's just that you've suffered. I knew very well that although he said so, he was still very happy in his heart. After all, the Black Nightmare Society had been in contact with the Lung family for such a long time, and the income of the Black Nightmare Society had indeed increased quite a bit. I could see Duanmu Lixiong beaming with joy every day, so I couldn't care less. He could do whatever he liked. I turned to Xiao Fengya and said, Mom, I might have to disturb everyone for 2 more days. I want to stay with Xinyao and chat with her. Let Suri stay with me in the guest room. As for Han Hao, I looked at Han Hao. Han Hao immediately understood what I meant. He looked at Xiao Fengya and Duanmu Tachio and said, Uncle, Auntie, please arrange a guest room for me too. I want to chat with Suri about the game. I've already discussed it with my father. Obviously, Han Hao was very worried about me staying at Duanmu's house. He looked at Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya, waiting for their response. Xiao Fengya looked at Duanmu Tachio. Duanmu Tachio nodded. Xiao Fengya turned to Han Hao and said, Okay, Hao-er. I'll ask the nanny to arrange a room for you. You guys should go upstairs and rest early. I'll prepare dinner later. Xiao Fengya gently patted my hand. Xinyao pulled me upstairs. Han Hao and Suri followed behind me. I was still worried about Duanmu, Quebec. I gave him a call, but it didn't go through. Xinyao could see my worry. She patted my shoulder and said softly, Sister-in-law, you don't have to worry. My brother probably went to find his brothers. He probably felt that he lost face and wanted to find a place to relax. You don't have to worry about him. I looked at Xinyao and nodded. Just as we were about to enter the bedroom, I saw you Xin standing at the other end of the hallway. She was standing in front of her bedroom door, looking at me. I thought she might have something to say to me. I looked at Xinyao and the others and said softly, Little Xinyao, you guys go in first. I'm going to talk to you Xin. Xinyao stopped and turned to look at you Xin. Then she looked at me and said, Sister-in-law, what are you going to talk to her about? Did you forget what kind of person she is? I'm not going to talk to her right now. Just looking at her makes me annoyed. Sister-in-law, you don't have to talk to her either, okay? Suri could see what I was thinking. He walked in front of Xinyao and carried her to the bedroom. As he walked, he said, You don't have to worry about what Milady wants to do. Let's go in first. Suri waved at me and said, Milady, you go. I'll help you look after Xinyao. I stood there and looked at them. Xinyao kicked and struggled, but Suri held her tightly and carried her into the bedroom. Han Hao followed and closed the door. I turned to look at you Xin and walked towards her. You Xin looked at me and sneered. She turned and opened the bedroom door. I walked to her side and looked at her. Then I walked into the bedroom. You Xin followed me in and closed the door behind her. I looked at you Xin and asked, Do you have something you want to say to me? You Xin looked at me and sneered. Cold glaze I lost. I lost completely. I looked at her in confusion. I didn't understand what she meant. What do you mean? I asked. She looked at me and said, I thought that after Brother Duanmu lost his memory, you wouldn't be in his life anymore. I also admit that after he lost his memory, I said a lot of bad things about you in his ear. I even said that you were involved with another man before you married him and that your relationship was unclear. I said all these things and he believed me at first. I thought that he would completely dump you after that, but I was wrong. I could never understand his thoughts. Just like yesterday at the mall, he would rather throw me aside to ensure your safety. He could ignore my life and death, but he had to protect you completely. I probably don't have any weight in his heart at all. I don't think I have a place in his heart. So I lost. I lost completely. I don't want to fight with you anymore. You don't have to divorce him. I will explain things to Duanmu Gij for you. Xin looked at me, her eyes filled with disappointment. I sighed and looked at her. You don't have to be like this. Don't you love him very much? You can fight for him now. He is a good man. I didn't know why I had to speak up for him. Xin shook her head. She looked at me and said, he is a good man, and I love him very much. But you know what? Even if I got him drunk and stood naked in front of him, he wouldn't even look at me, let alone touch me. I thought I would have sex with him when he was drunk, but I was completely wrong. That day, I just helped him into my bedroom, and then he fell asleep on the bed. I took off his clothes. I tried everything, but, that night I just lay on his shoulder. I couldn't sleep at all. The man I loved was lying beside me, but I couldn't have sex with him. Chapter 153. I looked at Xin. Obviously, she was very disappointed that nothing had happened between her and Duanmu, Quebec. I sneered and looked at her, saying, You'll have a chance in the future. I'm going to divorce him in 2 days. At that time, you'll be able to get close to him. That way, you'll be closer to your ultimate goal. Xin sighed and said, Forget it, he doesn't have me in his heart. That day, when I saw him pull you away, I knew that he had you in his heart. I tried my best, but nothing changed. So I gave up. That's it. I sincerely wish you 2 happiness together. I won't disturb your life anymore, so don't divorce him. I knew that although Xin said that on the surface, she definitely didn't think that way in her heart. Even if he doesn't want a divorce, as long as I insist on a divorce, I still have a copy of the contract that he signed. It's useless even if he tears up his copy. Unless the copy in my hands is lost, then it's truly invalid. He probably planned this for a long time. Actually, if I stay by his side, it won't be good for anyone. You should be very clear about the stakes involved. I think in the entire Duanmu family, the only one who truly treats me well is probably only Xinyao. Although these words might hurt Dad and Mom, I'm not afraid to say it in front of you. This is the truth, you should understand. Xin looked at me. She probably didn't think that I would tell her my inner thoughts, so directly. Xin was stunned. She looked at me and said, I understand what you mean. But whether you divorce or not is your business. I've already completely given up on Duanmu Gij. Although my heart hurts, my intuition tells me that I'll never get him again. I looked at Xin and said, I don't think you should give up. You should be more persistent with Duanmu, Quebec. Don't you love him? If you love him, you should have him, right? He needs a woman like you who is devoted to him and can help him. You can definitely do that. I believe in you. Xin looked at me and was even more stunned. She looked at me and said, Don't you hate me the most? Why are you suddenly helping me now? I'm not used to you being like this. I let go of Xin's hand and said with a smile, I wish you 2 happiness. I patted Xin's shoulder and turned to walk toward the door. As soon as I opened the door, Xin called out from behind me, Cold Glaze, you've forgiven me for what I did to you in the past, right? I stopped at the door and didn't turn to look at her. I said softly, I'm sorry, but I'll never forgive you for what you did to me. But I'm more assured that you'll treat Duanmu K very well. You'll take care of him wholeheartedly. So that's it. Other than this, you and I can never be friends. I walked out of Xin's bedroom and closed the door behind me. I let out a sigh, and my agitated mood gradually calmed down. I walked towards Xian Yao's room. I didn't know how I got there. I knocked on Xian Yao's door. As soon as Xian Yao opened the door, I walked in and directly laid down on the bed. I hugged the pillow and couldn't help but cry. My actions scared everyone. No one knew what happened to me. Han Hao understood me. He didn't say anything and gently found a blanket to cover me. Then, he sat down beside me and gently stroked my hair. Xian Yao pushed Han Hao and softly asked, "Han, how Gidge, what happened to sister-in-law? Why did she cry when she came back? Did you Xian bully her?" "No. I'm going to find her." Suri pulled Xian Yao back and said, "Girl, don't get too excited. Milady wouldn't cry because of this. She must be feeling wronged. Don't think too much about it. Milady will tell us if she wants to talk about it." Han Hao turned to Xian Yao and Suri and said, "Little Xian Yao and Suri, you two go out for a walk. I'll stay with her for a while. When she's a bit better, I'll call you back." Han Hao gave Suri a look, and Suri immediately understood. He pulled Xian Yao out of the bedroom and probably went for a walk in the garden downstairs. After Xian Yao and Suri left, Han Hao looked at me lying on the bed and sighed softly. Little Snowball seemed to have felt something wrong with me. He walked around me and sniffed me from time to time. It seemed like he was worried about me. Han Hao reached out to hold my shoulder and said, "Shaoli, they're all gone. What happened? When we got out of the car, I felt that you weren't in a good mood. What happened? Can you tell me and let me share the burden with you?" I shook my head and didn't say anything. Little Snowball climbed onto my body and lay down. He looked at Han Hao and meowed twice. It seemed like Little Snowball didn't want Han Hao to ask me any more questions. Han Hao picked up Little Snowball and held him in his arms. He looked at him and said, "Little Snowball, you don't want me to ask Shaoli any more questions, right? Even if Shaoli doesn't say anything, I know why she's so sad. She must have given up the man she loves to the woman she hates the most. She can't bear to part with him, but she has nowhere to vent. She can only bury all the pain deep in her heart. But Little Snowball, do you know? I really want to walk into Shaoli's heart because I love her too. Just like how she loves Xiao Kei. It's a deep love from the bottom of her heart." I didn't know why, but when I heard Han Hao say those words, I felt very sad. He was right. I love Duanmu Kei a lot, and I did feel bad about giving Duanmu Kei to you Xian. But when those words came out of Han Hao's mouth, it was like rubbing salt on my wound. It hurt so much that it tore my heart apart. I struggled to get up from the bed and sat in front of Han Hao. He was holding Little Snowball and looking at me with a gentle gaze. Han Hao was holding Little Snowball and looking at me with a smile. My heart melted in an instant. I threw myself into Han Hao's arms and hugged him tightly. I heard Little Snowball meow. Han Hao said softly, "Be careful, don't crush Little Snowball." I let go of Han Hao and wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. Han Hao put Little Snowball on the bed and reached out to gently wipe the tears from my face. Chapter 154. Han Hao looked at me affectionately and said, "Silly, why are you crying? I won't blame you. I know what you're thinking, and I understand the struggle in your heart. You don't have to worry about anything right now. All you need to know is that from now on, you belong to me, Han Hao. You don't have to worry about anything else. I'll be by your side for the next few days." Han Hao held me in his arms, and I reached out to hug him tightly. Han Hao gently stroked my hair and said, "All right, don't cry. Haven't I been here all this time? If there's anything that makes you unhappy, you have to tell me. If you can't hold it in, it won't be good for your body, and it won't be good for the baby in your belly. Do you understand?" Han Hao kissed my forehead. I leaned into Han Hao's arms and said softly, "Lie down with me for a while. I'm so tired. I feel like after I say everything I want to say, I can't take it anymore. Okay?" Han Hao looked at me and said, "I can accompany you, but it's not appropriate to do it in Xinyao's room. Besides, it's not appropriate to do it in Duanmu's house either. Although you and Xiao Ke have already agreed to divorce, isn't it still not appropriate to do it? I sighed and said, all right. I was still lying in Han Hao's arms. It really wasn't appropriate. After all, this place didn't just belong to the two of us. I let go of his arms and lay down on the bed. I turned around and picked up Snowball. I held him in my arms and played with him. My mind was full of what Duanmu Ke had said to me. Han Hao sat next to me. He gently tucked me in and sat down next to me. I didn't say anything to him. I didn't know how to tell him, so I chose to remain silent. Silence was the best way for me to escape from this situation. For the next 2 days, it was very peaceful at Duanmu's house. Everyone treated me very well. Even Yu Xian's attitude towards me was completely different from before. I used my weak body as an excuse and didn't eat with everyone. It was always Xinyao or Suri who served me. A few days ago, I ate the food that Duanmu Ke had cooked for me. I had a good appetite, but I didn't know why I suddenly couldn't eat anything. After tonight, it would be the day of the divorce. I hadn't seen Duanmu Ke at the Duanmu's house for a few days. It seemed that he had really disappeared. He was really going to appear in front of me tomorrow. My heart gradually calmed down. I just wanted to spend the night peacefully and complete the big thing that I had to do tomorrow. After dinner at night, I rejected everyone's request and took a walk in the empty garden alone. Under the starry sky, I walked on the path in the garden and unknowingly walked to the rose garden that used to be. It was still as bare as before. Other than the rattan chair that was still there, everything else was gone. I touched the rattan chair gently and felt its coldness. Maybe it couldn't bear to part with me. After all, it was something that had witnessed the love between Duanmu Ke and me. It carried a lot of my memories. My heart was very cold, so cold that it was close to freezing point. Just as I was thinking about the past in a daze, my phone suddenly rang. I took out my phone and saw that it was Xinyao. I picked up her call. Little Xinyao, what's wrong? What's the matter? Xinyao's anxious voice came from the other side of the phone. She said with a sobbing tone, Sister-in-law, sister-in-law, my brother disappeared. What should I do? Listening to Xinyao's words, my heart trembled. I hurriedly asked, what's going on? Didn't he say that he would disappear for 2 days? He should be fine. Xinyao cried and said, Sister-in-law, it's not like that. For the past few days, my brother has been staying at his friend's house. While they were drinking at the bar, they had a conflict with the table next to them. However, it was resolved. They just had a few words and didn't fight. When they saw that the matter was resolved, my brother's friends went to the bathroom. But when they returned, my brother was gone. He didn't take his phone with him and left a note with the words, we took Duanmu Ke away. His friends had no choice but to call me. Sister-in-law, what should we do? I'm still worried that something might have happened to my brother. After listening to Xinyao's story, I was stunned. I thought for a moment and said, Xinyao, don't worry. Don't tell Dad and Mom about this. Does Han Hao know about this? You can contact him and tell him that I'm in the garden. I'm going out to find him. If there's anything, I'll call him. I thought for a moment and dialed Suri's number. Suri, did you hear that Duanmu Ke was taken away? You don't need to worry about anything else right now. Call Uncle Bai and ask him to investigate who took Duanmu Ke away. After that, stay with Xinyao and protect her. If there's any news, inform me immediately. I'm going out now. I'm going to find him first. If there's anything, call him. I hung up the phone and walked to the door. My car was parked in a parking space near the entrance. I quickly drove to the bar that Xinyao had described to me. As soon as I arrived at the bar, I pushed the door open and entered. A waiter greeted me warmly. Hello, Mississippi. How may I help you? I glanced at him and took out a bill from my bag and stuffed it into his hand. I'm not going to beat around the bush with you. Don't beat around the bush with me. Who took Duanmu Ke away? The waiter took the bill and looked at me. Miss Lung, you're a smart person. Young Master K drank a bit too much. He and a few of his buddies had a conflict with the table next door. Later, when they saw that young Master K was alone, they asked him to go out and have a duel. Young Master K was the one who paid the bill for the table next door. I glanced at him and took out another bill from my bag and handed it to him. Where did they take him? The waiter took the bill and smiled. Those people often come to the bar. We know them more or less. They're some of the hooligans in the neighborhood. Maybe they couldn't stand young Master K's arrogance. Don't talk nonsense. Where did they take Duanmu K? I glared at him. He was so scared that he trembled and took a step back. The waiter said quietly, "They took them to the basketball court 2 streets away. That's their base." I glared at him and turned to leave the bar. As soon as I left the bar, I received a call from Suri. Suri said, "Miss, we've already investigated. They're just some hooligans. They don't have any background, and they're not our people. How do you want to deal with this?" "I'm on my way there. Arrange for a few people to come over. I can't move right now." I hung up the phone with complicated feelings. Chapter 155. I arrived at the basketball court the waiter had told me about. From a distance, I could see a few people standing in the corner of the court. It looked like a person was lying under their feet. I thought, could it be Duanmu K? I quickened my pace and walked into the court, walking toward them. I walked closer and saw that they were gangsters. The person lying on the ground was Duanmu, Quebec. His body was dirty, and his face was stained with blood. It looked like he had been beaten up by them. I clenched my fists and looked at them. They were still standing there, pointing at Duanmu K and saying something. I calmed myself down and clenched my fists. I looked at them and said loudly, "Hey, move out of the way." My voice was very loud, and they all turned to look at me. One of them walked up to me and looked at me from head to toe. Then he looked at me and said, "Hey, who are you? What's up? Take the initiative to throw yourself into our arms." Then he reached out his hand to touch my face. I flung his hand away and took out a wad of money from my bag. I looked at him and said, "Take the money and let him go." The man smiled at me and took the money. He turned to look at his brothers behind him and said, "See, he knows what he's doing. Divide the money among the brothers." He threw the money to one of the men behind him and distributed the money I gave him to the other brothers. I looked at the man and said, "Can you let him go now?" The man turned to look at me and sneered. "Wait a minute. The money you gave me is just enough to pay for my brothers and me. As for the ransom," he smiled at me and said, "It's still far from enough." I understood that they were obviously asking for money. I thought for a moment. I didn't have any cash on me. The banks were closed at this time, and the ATM machines were limited. I looked at him and said, "How about this? Give me a number and an account number. I'll call you tomorrow. Is that okay? Is that okay?" The man said, "Young lady, I thought you understood this. After all this time, you still don't understand. Do you think I'll believe that you'll give me money? Don't be ridiculous." He sneered. I looked at him and asked, "Do you know who you kidnapped?" He smiled and said, "Who is it? We don't care who it is, as long as we can get the money. It's all the same to us." "I really don't have that much cash on me," I said. "I'll give it to you tomorrow, but you won't agree." I wondered why Suri hadn't arrived yet. I'd sent him the coordinates, so he should be here soon. I couldn't do anything in my current body, so I could only stall for time. The man took another step forward. In a low voice, he said, "Why don't you spend the night with me, as an advance payment? What do you think?" Chick. The man reached for me again. I took a step back, and the man walked towards me again. Just when I didn't know what was wrong, I heard a voice. "Don't touch her." A heavy fist landed on the face of the man who was approaching me. I was stunned. When I came back to my senses, I saw that it was Duanmu K who had saved me. He grabbed the man tightly and started to tear him apart. The surrounding people were stunned at first. Then they grabbed Duanmu K and started to punch and kick him again. Duan Mukei's face was red with anger. His face was red with anger. I screamed, "Don't fight anymore. I'll call the police if you continue." However, none of them paid attention to me. Looking at Duan Mukei's pained expression, my heart ached. I didn't know what to do. Just when I was panicking, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw Suri leading a group of people into the basketball court. Suri ran to my side and patted my shoulder. "I'm going to save Duanmu, Quebec. You take him away quickly." Suri jumped from my side and kicked a person. Then a scuffle ensued. Suri brought Duanmu K out of the crowd. He brought Duanmu K in front of me and said, "Young lady, you should leave quickly." Then he handed Duanmu K to me and turned around to join the scuffle. I supported Duanmu, Quebec. He was already very weak. I looked around and saw that everyone was fighting. I thought for a moment and decided that it was best to take Duanmu K to a safe place first. Of course, we couldn't go back to Duanmu's house yet. If Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fingya found out, they would definitely be worried. We couldn't go back to my house either. Things would get out of hand. I thought for a moment and decided to find a good hotel nearby to rest for the night. I took him to a hotel and arranged a room. I brought Duanmu K into the room. I saw that his body was dirty and covered with wounds. I had no other choice but to treat his wounds. I took off his clothes and called the waiter to arrange a cleaning. I also asked for a set of medical alcohol cotton balls to clean his wounds. The Duanmu K was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. His brows were tightly knitted, and his expression was one of pain. I looked at the wounds on his body. There were many bruises and abrasions. My heart ached. I went to the bathroom and wet a towel. I returned to his side and gently wiped his body. His expression was still very painful. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead, and tears fell from my eyes. Looking at him like this, I felt very bad. After wiping him clean, I began to disinfect his wound. As soon as the alcohol cotton touched his wound, he cried out in pain. He reached out and tightly grabbed my hand. I was so scared that I shivered. He didn't say anything. He just tightly grabbed my hand and let out a painful groan. I understood that when the alcohol cotton touched his wound, it must have caused him to feel uncomfortable. I gently touched Duanmu K's face and looked at him, saying, "Little K, don't be afraid. I'm just treating your wound. It'll be fine in a while. Bear with it for a while. It might hurt a bit. Once I'm done treating it, it won't hurt as much anymore. Just bear with it for a while. Okay?" I comforted him, but I didn't know if he could hear me. Perhaps he heard my words, because he gradually let go of my hand. I continued to treat his wounds. Although there was some pain, he endured it with great difficulty. His expression was very painful, and his forehead was sweating. I treated his wounds while wiping his sweat. Finally, I finished treating his wounds. I sat next to him and let out a long sigh. I turned my head to look at him. His expression wasn't as painful as before. I was afraid that he would catch a cold, so I took the blanket and gently covered him. I looked at Duanmu K's closed eyes and sleeping appearance. Chapter 156. It was hard to imagine that we would be divorced the next day. I used to love him so much, but now we were facing the moment of separation. I didn't feel good about it. I didn't know how long I had slept, but I suddenly felt someone touching my head. This feeling grew stronger and stronger, and it didn't feel like a dream. I immediately woke up. I raised my head and saw Duanmu K looking at me with his eyes wide open. His hand stopped in midair. It turned out he was touching my hair. I sighed and patted my chest lightly. "You scared me to death. I thought it was those people who rushed in." Duanmu K lay on the bed and looked at me. His expression was gentle. I came back to my senses and looked at him. "Are you thirsty?" "I forgot. Let me get you some water." I picked up the glass and poured Duanmu K a glass of water. Then I helped him up. He held the glass and drank it in a few gulps. It seemed he was really thirsty. I looked at him and asked, "Do you want another glass?" Duanmu K looked at me and shook his head. I put the glass aside and placed a pillow behind his back. Dwamuke looked at me and asked, "How long did I sleep?" I looked at him and said, "You didn't sleep for long. Does your wound still hurt? There aren't many things here, and I didn't dare to take you to the hospital. If someone took advantage of the situation, I wouldn't be able to protect you." Dwamuke looked at me and sneered. "Thank you. And I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble and made you worry." I smiled and shook my head. Just then, my phone rang. I took it out and saw that it was Suri. I answered the call. "Suri, how's it going?" "Don't worry, Miss Xiao. Those hooligans aren't our opponents." I didn't hand them over to the police. I directly went to the Red Minghui and interrogated them. They said that it was because of the conflict in the bar that they thought of kidnapping. At first, they just wanted to beat them up and rob them. But since Miss Xiao was there, they wanted to extort more money. They didn't know that they were provoking the Red Minghui's miss and the Kurosawa's young master. When they found out, their legs turned to jelly, said Suri. "It's good that you've dealt with them. Where are they now?" "They're still locked up by the Red Minghui. They're clamoring to turn themselves in at the police station, but Uncle Bai decisively refused. Uncle Bai said that bullying Miss Xiao is going against the Red Minghui, and he absolutely won't hand them over to the police." "All right." Uncle Bai asked if we should get rid of them. I thought for a moment and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. Then I said into the phone, "No need. Tell Uncle Bai to let them go after threatening them, but don't let them call the police. Xiao Kei and I are outside right now. I didn't tell the Duanmu's family about this, and you don't need to tell my parents. Just let us know." "All right." "I have something I need to trouble you to tell Xinyao and Han how that I won't be going back home today. Xiao Kei and I will be staying outside for the night." I looked at Duanmuke, my face a little red. "Okay, I got it." Suri hung up the phone. I sighed. It seemed that the matter had been resolved. I didn't need to worry anymore. I looked at Duanmuke and smiled at him. "You don't need to worry. Suri has already dealt with those people who had a conflict with you. You should have a good rest tonight. Tomorrow, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle the procedures." Duanmuke looked at me with a solemn expression. Duanmuke looked at me. "Why do you still care about me? It's enough that you let me get beaten up there. Why do you have to save me?" I didn't look at Duanmuke and answered softly, "I don't know. When I heard from Xinyao that something had happened to you, I couldn't help but run over to find you. When I saw that you were in danger, I was very worried. Now that I see that you're in good condition, I feel that my mission has been accomplished. No matter what, you have to take care of your body. You still have your family, your brothers, and your friends. You have a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders, so you must live well." Duanmuke suddenly pulled me into his embrace. "You'll stay with me tonight, right?" he whispered. I leaned into Duanmuke's embrace, but I didn't know how to answer. Duanmuke whispered to me, "Today is the last time we'll be together. Promise to stay with me, okay?" I heard Duanmuke's heartbeat. It was very fast. I thought for a moment and nodded. I lay in Duanmuke's embrace. He leaned against the headboard and hugged me tightly. He gently stroked my hair, but didn't say a word. I listened to his heartbeat and asked softly, "Does your wound still hurt?" Duanmuke stroked my hair. "It doesn't hurt anymore. It's just that." "Just what?" "It's just that you're wearing clothes, and I don't feel comfortable hugging you. Can you take them off?" Duanmuke looked at me as he spoke. My face heated up, and I didn't know what to do. Before I could react, Duanmuke had already started taking off my clothes. I didn't even have time to struggle before Duanmuke stripped me naked. I subconsciously grabbed the blanket to cover myself. Duanmuke looked at me and smiled. He snatched the blanket from my hands and hugged me again. My heart was beating very fast. I thought for a moment and decided to find a topic to talk about. I had to think of a way to change Duanmuke's mind. What if he wanted to do something to me again? I asked softly, "Where have you been for the past 2 days?" Duanmuke hugged me and said, "I've been staying at my brother's place for the past 2 days. During the day, I stayed at my brother's place. At night, we went to the nightclub. There wasn't much to do. My brothers knew that I was going to get a divorce, so they put down what they were doing and came to accompany me. I've been feeling better these past few days, but I didn't expect something like that to happen tonight. I was really surprised. It wasn't an accident, right? You've been holding it in for a long time, and you've been looking for a place to vent it. But you didn't have a place to do so. That thing happened, and all your resentment exploded. That's why you ended up like this. You just didn't think that you would get hurt, and that you, Duan-Mu-Ke, would be bullied by others. I leaned against his chest. Duan-Mu-Ke sneered. You're probably right. I don't know how to get rid of it. I've been drinking every day for the past 2 days, but it didn't give me any relief. My heart was still in a mess. Until I saw you, I calmed down. Now, I don't want to think about anything else. I just want to hold you like this forever. Don't be so impulsive in the future. Those people didn't know that you were Duan-Mu-Ke, so they didn't dare to touch you. Next time, when you go out, bring more people with you. Drink less. Don't drink so much, and it's easy to get into trouble after drinking. Chapter 157. Duan-Mu-Ke hugged me tightly and said softly, My brothers always say that a woman is a burden after marriage, but it's different from what they say. No one around me has ever said that to me like you, not even my parents. They never care about my affairs. I lowered my head and thought for a moment. There will be more in the future, I said. Duan-Mu-Ke seemed to be stunned. As soon as I finished speaking, I regretted it. I really had touched a sore spot. Duan-Mu-Ke sighed. He looked at me and said, There may be one in the future, but it won't be you. I sat up in his arms and looked at him. I didn't beat around the bush and said directly, Xin is very good to you. She has always loved you. She also wants to be with you. I think she is the most suitable person to be by your side. You can consider her. Duan-Mu-Ke sighed. He sat up and pressed me down on the bed with both hands. Before I could react, he was already on top of me. He looked at me and caressed my face gently with a doting expression. He said to me, Tonight only belongs to the two of us. Can you not mention anyone else? You Xin can't, Xingyao can't, Suri can't, and Han Hao can't. Anyway, besides me and you can't mention anyone else. Duan-Mu-Ke's sudden pretentiousness made me confused. I looked at his serious expression and didn't know what to do. Duan-Mu-Ke seemed to see my helplessness. He cupped my face and gently kissed my lips. His other hand began to caress my body without restraint. I subconsciously grabbed his hand tightly. Duan-Mu-Ke raised his head and looked at me. He stroked my hair and said, Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Okay? I shook my head hard and looked at Duan-Mu-Quebec. No, Xiaoke, don't touch me. I don't feel good. I found an excuse to fool Duan-Mu-Ke, but it was obvious that it didn't work. Duan-Mu-Ke looked at me with disdain. I was helpless, but I couldn't think of any reason to reject him. Duan-Mu-Ke looked at me and said softly, Don't be afraid. I promise I will be gentle. He lowered his head and kissed my lips again. This time, I didn't reject him. He stroked my body gently, and I didn't reject him either. Just like before when I had sex with him, I decided to boldly indulge myself and open my heart. Just like Duan-Mu-Ke said, this night it was just me and him. There was no one else between us. I wanted to be with him. I wanted to return to the time when I loved him deeply and only loved him. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. Duan-Mu-Ke saw that I didn't reject him anymore. He sat up and hugged me. I sat on top of him. He looked at me and stroked my hair gently. He smiled and said, Cold Glaze, I have really fallen in love with you. If you are pregnant with my child after this night, please tell me. As long as you are willing, I am willing to be responsible for you for the rest of my life. Duan-Mu-Ke kissed my lips and hugged me tightly. I felt his intense kiss, which made me nervous, but I didn't reject him. The night passed quickly. I didn't know how long we had been going at it. When we were both tired, I lay on Duan-Mu-Ke's body and listened to his strong heartbeat. Duan Mu Ke gently stroked my hair and said, "You must be tired. It's my fault. I couldn't control myself. Did I hurt you?" I touched the red spot where Duan Mu Ke had pinched my arm. With a dark expression, I sighed and shook my head, softly saying, "It's not your fault. It doesn't hurt. It's fine. It's already past 12 o'clock. Hurry up and rest. Your body is still weak." Duan Mu Ke hugged me and gently patted my back. I'm already very satisfied. Tonight was the happiest night of my life. I feel very comfortable. I raised my head and looked at him. "You must have indulged too much. That's why you feel so comfortable." Duan Mu Ke hugged me and smiled. "That's just one of the reasons. The main reason is because I have you. I don't care about anything else. But it's too late to say anything now. When the sun rises, I will lose you." I suddenly feel very reluctant. What should I do? I didn't know what to say. I could only lie quietly in Duan Mu Ke's arms and feel the lingering warmth of indulgence. Duan Mu Ke and I didn't talk anymore. I lay in his arms and fell asleep. It was a deep sleep, but it was a good sleep. In a daze, I felt Duan Mu Ke turn around and hug me. I leaned against his chest and felt his warmth. I kept thinking that it would be great if I could turn back time. That way, I could return to the happiest time I had with Duan Mu Quebec. When I woke up, Duan Mu Ke was on top of me. He looked at me and gently played with my hair. When he saw that I was awake, he immediately kissed my lips. Then he looked at me and smiled. "Good morning." I rubbed my eyes. I still hadn't woken up. I looked at Duan Mu Ke with a confused face. Looking at his smile, I smiled too. I held his face and kissed him gently on the lips. Duan Mu Ke was stunned at first. Then he looked at me and stroked my hair, smiling brightly. I turned to look out the window. The sun was high in the sky. I turned back to Duan Mu Ke and said, "It's late. We should get down to business." I got up from the bed and sat there looking at Duan Mu, Quebec. He looked disappointed. I gently patted Duan Mu Ke's back and said, "Don't be like this. Didn't we agree that everything will be fine? Everything's going to be okay. Take it easy. Let's go." I reached out and hugged him tightly. Duan Mu Ke turned around and hugged me. I could feel his disappointment. He hugged me and said softly, "Okay, pack up. Let's go." Duan Mu Ke and I packed up and left the hotel. The two of us drove to the Civil Affairs Bureau. We didn't talk on the way. I knew that he couldn't bear to part with me, and I couldn't bear to part with him either. However, I couldn't get over the hurdle in my heart. I decided to divorce him. When we arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xinyao, Surrey, and Han Hao were already there. We parked the car and got out. Xinyao ran to me. She held my hand and said sadly, "Sister-in-law, were you and my brother okay yesterday? Are you sure you want a divorce? I can't bear to part with you. What about you? Don't divorce, okay? If you leave, there will be no one to talk to in this family." Chapter 158. I looked at Xian Yao and smiled. The two of us spent the night outside. Besides your brother's injuries, nothing else happened. "Oh, right. Mom and Dad don't know about what happened last night, do they?" Xian Yao shook her head. "Mom and Dad don't know. I didn't tell them. My brother is always away, so they're used to it." Xian Yao leaned in close to my ear and smirked. "Sister-in-law, did something happen between you and my brother last night?" I blushed. "Naughty girl, what are you talking about? Don't talk nonsense." My eyes swept over to Han Hao. His expression wasn't good. It seemed he already knew about what happened last night. He probably also knew that I didn't go home last night because I was with the Duan Mu Quebec. My heart suddenly felt uncomfortable, but I didn't know how to tell him. Han Hao walked in front of me. Looking at me, he said to Xian Yao, "Xian Yao, I want to talk to Xiao Li. You go over there first." Xian Yao nodded and left. I looked at Han Hao. I knew what he wanted to say to me. I wanted to take the initiative to speak, but I didn't know how to. As soon as I opened my mouth, Han Hao looked at me and said, I don't care what happened between you and the Duanmu last night. From today onwards, as long as you two sign the divorce agreement, you are my woman. I've already brought the household register. If you're willing, we can get a marriage certificate today. But I won't force you. You just have to remember that from now on, you are mine. Listening to Han Hao's hegemony, I didn't know what to do. Han Hao looked at me and gently stroked my hair. Don't worry. I'm just thinking about how you spent the night with him last night makes me uncomfortable. Hurry up and get the paperwork done. If you're any later, they'll take their lunch break. I smiled at Han Hao and nodded. Then I walked over to Duanmu, Quebec Duanmu. Kay looked at me and said, let's go. I nodded. Duanmu Kay and I went to the registration hall. The staff member started to process the paperwork for us. Duanmu Kay sat next to me. He held my hand tightly but didn't say a word. The staff member looked at the two of us and said, it's really strange. This is the first time I've seen two people holding hands in a divorce. Duanmu Kay glared at him, and the man didn't say anything else. After a while, the staff member looked at me and Duanmu Kay and asked, are you sure you want a divorce? If it's confirmed, I'll put my stamp on it, and it'll take effect immediately. You can't go back on your word. You two should think about it carefully. Before I could open my mouth, Duanmu Kay stepped in front of me and said, I've thought it through. Let's cover it. The man turned and looked at me again. What about you? Have you thought it through? I turned and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. He lowered his head and didn't look at me. I nodded, disappointed. The staff member directly stamped the divorce certificate. He handed it to us and said, it's done. Let me give you two some advice. I feel that you two love each other very much. If it's because of some trivial matter, there's really no need for two loving people to divorce. So, if you think it through, it's still possible to get married again. I smiled at the staff member, then followed Duanmu Kay out of the reception hall. The two of us arrived at the door. Duanmu Kay looked at me with the certificate in his hand. His eyes had turned red. He pulled my hand and hugged me tightly in his arms. In a soft voice he said, Xiaoli, you don't belong to me anymore. Although I'm very sad, I've made a big decision. I've decided. From now on, I want to officially pursue you. I want to use my own efforts to pursue you. Although I don't know if I can recover the memories of when we were together, please allow me to use my own abilities to pursue you. After saying that, Duanmu Kay kissed me gently on the cheek and left. Duanmu Kay looked at Han Hao and said, Little Hao, you can pursue Little Li. Now that I'm single, I also have the right to pursue Little Li. I want to compete fairly with you, and I hope you can accept. I'm very confident that I can pursue Little Li. Don't worry, I won't use any special methods. If I say fair competition, then fair competition is fair competition. Also, I may have treated you poorly in the past, so I hope you won't lower yourself to my level. I'm sorry. After saying this, Duanmu Kay patted Han Hao's shoulder and left. I walked to Han Hao's side and looked at him. Han Hao first smiled, then looked at me and said, Xiao Kay has changed. In the past, he would never put so much effort into doing something. It seems like you've influenced him greatly. I looked at Duanmu Kay's figure and said softly, he really is changed. If his violent nature is his nature, then his gentle nature should be his heart. Looking at his figure, I felt very sad. But after hearing Duanmu Kay's words, my heart felt very warm. Perhaps this was the life I had been looking forward to. Han Hao looked at me and said, what do you plan to do next? I thought for a moment, then called Xinyao and Suri over. I looked at Suri and asked, have you finished packing my luggage from Duanmu's house? Suri looked at me and said, young lady, it's all packed. Before I left, I brought it in the car. What car? I looked at Suri with a puzzled expression. At this time, Xinyao rushed in front of me. She looked at me and said, sister-in-law, don't blame him. I felt that it was inconvenient for him to go out without a vehicle, so I bought him a car. Sister-in-law, you can pack me up and take me with you. Looking at Xinyao's pitiful appearance, I gently stroked her hair and said, "You and Suri should be fine. I'll pay for Suri's car. What do you want as compensation? Sister-in-law will buy it for you. You still have very important things to do. You need to take care of Dad and Mom. Xiao Kei's work is too busy." Only a caring daughter, like you can take care of them. Xinyao looked at me and nodded helplessly. Han Hao looked at me and said, "What are you going to do next? You haven't told me yet." I reached out and touched my belly. Looking in the direction where Duan Mukei's figure had disappeared, I softly said, "I'm going to go home and tell Dad and Mom. Then I want to go back to America and give birth to the child." "What? Heavens! Sister-in-law, you're pregnant? When did this happen? Why didn't you tell me? If you told me, we wouldn't have gotten a divorce. Does my brother know about this?" "No, he shouldn't know. If he knew, he wouldn't have agreed to the divorce." Xinyao stared at me in disbelief. Chapter 159. I looked at Xin Yao and patted her head. "This is a secret. You absolutely cannot tell your brother. You've been pregnant for more than 2 months, so divorce is inevitable. It has nothing to do with whether you're pregnant or not. But you can't let him know. If he knows, he'll feel burdened. Originally, this matter shouldn't be known to anyone in the Duanmu family, but you are an exception. I believe that you won't betray me." I smiled at Xin Yao, waiting for her reply. Xin Yao's eyes rolled, and then she hugged my arm. "Sister-in-law, don't worry. I won't tell anyone. I'm also looking forward to the birth of this baby. Then I can be an aunt. Just thinking about it makes me feel very happy." Han Hao walked in front of Xin Yao. Looking at Xin Yao, he said unhappily, "Can you stop calling her sister-in-law? She already divorced your brother. Now she's alone. You're making me unhappy." Han Hao looked at Xin Yao and bluntly said his true thoughts. Xin Yao looked at Han Hao and froze for a moment. Then she laughed and said, "Haha, Gij Han Hao, you're jealous. It's not wrong for me to call her sister-in-law. If she's with you, won't I have to call her sister-in-law? Okay, if you don't want to listen, I'll call her Jejia. Don't be angry. Your angry face is so weird. It's so funny." After saying that, Xin Yao couldn't help but laugh again. Han Hao's face turned red. He looked at Xin Yao with a weird expression. I also couldn't help but laugh. Han Hao looked at me and also laughed. He helplessly shook his head. The few of us stood in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau and laughed. After that, Suri and Xin Yao left. The two of them said that they were going to pick up Suri's little sister from the hospital. Then they would take Xinyao back to the Duanmu family. Finally, Suri would take his little sister back to my house. Han Hao took me back to my house first. Han Hao drove very slowly. He was focused on driving and didn't look at me. But I knew he had a lot of questions to ask me. I looked at Han Hao's side profile. My heart was in a mess. I wanted to ask him something, but I didn't know what to say. After thinking about it, I looked at Han Hao and said, "Thank you for your hard work. You came all the way here to pick me up. Thank you." Han Hao didn't look at me. He just said coldly, "Next time, don't thank me for something like this. It's what I should do. As your soon-to-be boyfriend, it's my duty to escort you home safely. So, next time, don't thank me for something like this. I'll feel like you're treating me like an outsider." Hearing Han Hao say that, I almost choked. He was also a hegemonist. It seemed I had to pay more attention to what I did in the future. If I didn't treat myself well, he would be very angry and scold me. It was hard to imagine that kind of scene. I lowered my head and said softly, "I know. I won't say it next time." Han Hao looked at me, and his tone became gentle. He said, "It's good that you understand. Don't make me feel like there's too much distance between us. I really want to stay by your side and take care of you. I hope you won't resist." I sighed and looked at Han Hao. "I know how you feel about me. I won't make you unhappy. Hee hee." I smiled at Han Hao. He looked at my silly smile and gently rubbed my head. Then he focused on driving. The two of us drove for a while until we finally arrived at my house. From a distance, I saw a car parked in front of my house. It looked very familiar. Just as I was wondering whose car it was, Han Hao furrowed his brows. Why is Xiao Kei's car here? I suddenly remembered that it was Xiao Kei's car. Why was his car parked in front of my house? Puzzled, I got out of the car and walked into my house. As soon as I entered the living room, I saw Duanmu Kei sitting on the sofa. He was talking to my parents about something. I was a little worried, so I quickly walked to his side. I looked at him and asked softly, Xiao Kei, why are you here? Duanmu Kei turned around to look at me. Then he stood up. He looked at my parents and said, Dad, Mom, I know I've already filed for divorce with Xiaoli, but please believe me, I will get her back. I apologize to you for the many things I've done to her in the past that hurt her, but please believe me, as long as Xiaoli is with me, I will definitely give her happiness, I promise you. I promise. Before I could open my mouth, Han Hao walked in from outside. He looked at Duanmu Kei, then at me. Then he looked at my parents and said, Uncle, Andy, I've decided to be with Xiaoli. Xiaoli hasn't rejected me. I hope you can allow me to be with Xiaoli. I'll make her happy. I'll always be with her. I'll never let her get hurt. I didn't know why, but Han Hao's last sentence sounded like he was talking to Duanmu Quebec. After Han Hao finished speaking, he looked at Duanmu Quebec. The two of them looked like they were about to start a war. Obviously, my parents were stunned by Duanmu Kei and Han Hao's words. They looked at each other and then looked at me at the same time. It seemed like they were asking me how to solve this situation. My heart was also in a mess. I didn't understand how these two people could appear in my house so coincidentally. They appeared in front of my parents and even said the same thing. Were they trying to drive me or my parents crazy? Seeing that my parents didn't know what to do, the atmosphere became more and more awkward. I thought for a moment and looked at Han Hao. Then I said to Duanmu Kei, Xiao Kei, you should go back first. There are still a lot of things you need to deal with in Kurosawa. Mom and Dad also need you. You should go back first. Duanmu Kei looked at me. His eyes told me that he didn't want to go. Then I looked at Han Hao and said, Xiao Hao, thank you for taking me home. You've been busy all morning. The Kurosawa also needs you. You should go back first. I want to stay with my parents for a while and talk. You should all go back first. Han Hao and Duanmu Kei looked at each other. They obviously didn't want to back down, but I didn't know how to persuade them. In the end, it was Han Hao who spoke first. He looked at me and said, Xiaoli, you should rest first. He took out a bag from behind his back. It seemed to be filled with snacks. He handed the bag to me and said, These are all your favorite snacks. Eat them when you're bored. They can relieve your mood. I'll go first. Goodbye, Uncle and Auntie. Han Hao said goodbye to me and my parents and turned to leave. Before he left, he looked at Duanmu Kei and signaled for him to leave with him. Chapter 160. Duanmu Kei looked at Han Hao, then at my parents. Dad, Mom, I'm leaving too. Then he took out a bank card from his shirt pocket and placed it on the table. This is a small token of my appreciation. Dad, Mom, and Xiaoli can take it. I'm leaving, but I'll come visit again. With that, Duanmu Kei turned and left. Watching the two of them leave, I shook my head helplessly. At this time, my mother walked to my side. She took my hand and said, Li Air, you're back. I didn't even have time to talk to you before those two kids knocked me out. I held my mother's hand and looked at her. Mom, how long has Xiao Kei been here? My mother looked at the time, then at me. He's been here for a while, and he's told us a lot about his time with you. He also admitted to his mistakes and said that he shouldn't have treated you that way. His attitude was very sincere. I saw that he was sincerely apologizing, so I let him sit down. But I didn't expect that he would start talking about pursuing you again, and that he would rely on his own abilities to win you over. Your father and I were confused, and we didn't know what he meant. Your father don't know what to do. I sighed and looked at my mother. Mom, it's okay. Just let him be. I might have to stay by your side for a while. You and Dad won't dislike me, right? I looked at my mother and smiled. My mother shook her head and touched my belly. How could we? Your father and I have been waiting for you to come back. How's the baby? I heard from Duanmuke that you went out with him last night. Did you have sex? How could you not know how to control yourself? What if you hurt the baby? Hearing my mother say that, I cursed Duanmuke in my heart. That idiot even running over to my parents to tell on me. I smiled and looked at my mother. Mom, it's okay. The baby is healthy. I looked it up on the internet. It's okay to have sex with the baby. He wasn't too rough and was quite gentle. He didn't hurt me. My mother nodded. That's good. Do you want to go upstairs and rest for a while? I've already prepared a room for you. Are you hungry? I'll get you something to eat. I took her hand and sat down on the sofa. I looked at her and said, Mom, don't be busy. I'm coming home, not a guest. I can do it myself. You and Dad can sit down and chat with me. I haven't talked to you in a long time. I miss you. I leaned on her shoulder, and she gently stroked my hair. I lifted my head to look at my father. His expression was solemn. It seemed he was upset. I looked at him and asked, Dad, what's wrong? Is there something that makes you unhappy? My father looked at me and said, Lee-er, it's not that I want to scold you, but you just finished the divorce procedures. Why are you directly coming to propose marriage? Also, tell me, who do you like? If you like Han Hao and want to marry him, I'm prepared to withdraw all of my shares in the Duanmu family. This is also a kind of protection for you and our family. I looked at my father, and he brought up a question I didn't want to think about. I sighed and was just about to answer when my mother seemed to see that I was unhappy. She looked at my father and said, Dad, the child just came back, and you're already asking this and that. This is a home, not a company. Don't talk about your career at home. I don't want to hear about it. Also, the child is pregnant, and she was injured a while ago. Her body is weak. Why are you talking about her like that? Is she still your biological child? If someone wants to pursue Lee-er, then let him. That proves that our Lee-er is very charming. What are you afraid of? No matter if it's Xiao Ke or Xiao Hao, to be honest, won't they all help your career? Don't say so much. If I hear you say such things to Lee-er again, don't blame me for falling out with you. My father was stunned by my mother's words. He sat there in a daze, looking at my mother and me. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. After a while, my father shook his head. He looked at my mother and said, Forget it, forget it. I'm afraid you'll throw a tantrum at me. I'll do as you say. I don't care. I'm going to the study to read. Then he stood up and walked to the study. My mother looked as if she had won a battle. She looked at my father's back and said, Go. I've put the medicine on your table. Remember to take it. I'll call you when it's time for dinner. After my father walked into the study, my mother turned to look at me and said, Lee-er, don't listen to your father. He never thinks before he speaks. It's not like you don't know that. He doesn't mean it. Just stay at home. Mom will take care of you. My mother gently patted my back. My heart felt warm. With such a warm embrace, my heart didn't feel so cold anymore. After chatting with my mother for a while, I went upstairs to rest. When I returned to my own bedroom, I recalled the time when Duanmuke had come to my house to accompany me during my confinement period. It was just like what had happened not too long ago. However, things had remained the same, but the people had changed. Now, I was the only one left here. My heart no longer had the worries that I yearned for day and night. Instead, it was empty. I thought of the question my father had asked me. Who do I like? Who do I want to choose? Actually, I didn't know. Every time I faced this question, my heart would be in a mess. It was so messy that I couldn't breathe. But I still didn't know who I should choose. I decided not to think about it anymore. My most important task now was to take care of the baby and give birth to him. He had become my only hope. I lay on the bed and took a nap. It wasn't until the nanny came upstairs and knocked on the door to tell me that it was time to go downstairs for dinner that I reluctantly got up from the bed. I tidied up and walked out of the bedroom. I walked to the dining room. Before I even reached the dining room, I felt an awkward atmosphere in the living room. It was a strange atmosphere. At this moment, I bumped into Suri. I called Suri over and asked him in a low voice, "Suri, don't you feel like there's a smell of gunpowder in the air? Why is it so strange?" Suri shook his head helplessly. "Miss, how can you not feel strange? Those who should come and those who shouldn't come are all here." I didn't understand what Suri meant. I looked at him and asked, "What? What do you mean by those who should come and those who shouldn't come? What's going on? Explain it clearly." Su Rue pointed to the dining room and said, "You'll understand when you see it. Miss, I'm really worried about you, but I don't have any way to share your burden." Su Rue's words completely confused me. Chapter 161. I looked at the dining room. It was very quiet. This was indeed abnormal. Normally, there would be the sound of parents talking, but there wasn't any. I turned to look at Suri. Suri helplessly shrugged at me. It was obvious that he couldn't do anything about this. I sighed and walked to the dining room. As soon as I entered the dining room, I understood why Suri said that he couldn't do anything about it. Even I couldn't do anything about the situation, let alone him. I couldn't help but feel a headache coming. My family's dining table was very big, but today it was full. My father sat in the middle, and my mother sat on his left. Next to my mother was Xinyao, and next to Xinyao was a little girl. She was talking and laughing with Xinyao. Looking at her age and appearance, she should be Suri's little sister. There was an empty chair next to her, which was probably reserved for Suri. Everything seemed normal, but the two people sitting on my father's right made me speechless. Duan Muke and Han Hao actually appeared at our family's dining table. Duan Muke sat next to my father on his right. There was a chair between Duan Muke and Han Hao. Han Hao sat opposite Suri's little sister. However, the two of them had similar expressions. They looked at the table full of food with a serious expression. I guessed that the smell of gunpowder in the house was coming from them. Su Rue walked past me and went to his seat. Then, he whispered a few words in Xinyao's ear. I saw Xinyao covering her mouth and looking at me with a smile. I looked at the two of them with disdain and walked over. "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. I just woke up and came late. You must have been waiting for me." My mother raised her head and looked at me. "Li Er, you're awake. How did you sleep? Sit down and eat something." Suri brought his little sister and Xinyao to our house to play. Xiao Ke and Xiao Hao also came. They said that they wanted to have dinner together. "Look, this is the roast duck that Xiao Ke brought, and this is the bird's nest porridge that Xiao Hao brought." My mother gave me a look. I understood what she meant. She wanted me to be careful with my words and not hurt anyone. My mother looked at me and smiled. "There's only one seat left. Why don't you sit there?" I nodded and glanced at Duan Muke and Han Hao. The two of them were also looking at me. Although I was extremely unwilling in my heart, I still decided to sit between the two of them. Otherwise, who knows what might happen. I walked to my seat and sat down. The two of them looked at me at the same time. I thought for a moment. I guessed that this meal wouldn't be good. My father looked at everyone and said softly, "Come, let's eat." My mother smiled and said, "Hurry up and eat. Eat more. If it's not enough, there's more in the kitchen." I asked the chef to make more. "Baby, you have to eat more too. You're still growing." I looked at my mother. She was talking to Suri's little sister. Her tone was so affectionate that it made me a little jealous. I couldn't blame her. She had always liked children, and she had always wanted me to have one. Suri's little sister was very cute. Although she was small and thin, her eyes were big, just like a doll's. She was also very obedient. She was much more mature than other girls her age. Although it was my first time meeting her, I liked her very much. I looked at her and asked Suri, "Suri, your little sister is much cuter than you. I still don't know her name." Xin Yao looked at her little sister and said sweetly, "Baby, be good. Tell sister, Shaoli your name." My face darkened again. Xin Yao looked like she was taking care of a child. It seemed that she would be a good parent in the future. Suri's little sister raised her head and shyly looked at me. She said softly, "Hello, Sister Shaoli. My name is Susu. I'm 10 years old." Susu was much cuter than Suri. After introducing herself, she shyly hid behind Xin Yao. I thought that Suri and Susu were still crammed together in their old house. I felt that it was inappropriate. I looked at my parents and said, "Dad, Mom, there's something I want to discuss with you. Suri is now my personal bodyguard. According to common sense, Suri should live in our house. He only has one little sister now. Can we let both Susu and Suri live in our house?" Father said as he ate, "No problem. Later, I'll arrange for the nanny to clean up a room for Su Rue and another room for Susu. If there's anything the family needs to buy, you'll be in charge." Before I could say anything, Suri said, "President, that's too troublesome. I'll just share a room with Susu." My mother looked at him and said, "Suri, don't refuse at this time. It's rare for the heir to ask her father for help. You have to accept this favor. Besides, it's not convenient for a man like you to stay with Susu. You can't take care of her well. Let her have a room by herself. That way, I can take care of Susu when I'm free. Also, if Xin Yao comes to find you, it'll be convenient." After saying that, my mother laughed. Hearing my mother's laughter, I suddenly understood. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Suri and Xin Yao's faces turned red. It seemed they understood my mother's meaning. With great difficulty, the atmosphere at the table eased a bit. My mother and Xin Yao kept talking about Susu. They talked happily. My father and Suri accompanied them and laughed. The atmosphere on the other side of the table wasn't too good. On the other hand, it was as if the air had frozen. The three of us didn't say anything and just ate with our heads down. Of course, I think the two of them were also thinking about something, but they just didn't say it out loud. Just as my thoughts were running wild, a pair of chopsticks picked up a piece of meat and placed it in my bowl. I looked up and saw Han Hao put the meat in my bowl. Then he looked at me and said with a smile, "Eat more. I didn't see you eat much." "You're eating too little." After saying that, he put some more food in my bowl and then began to ladle soup for me. I smiled at Han Hao and said, "Thank you. I can do it myself." Obviously, I didn't know what to say. After I refused Han Hao, Duamuke reached out and put another piece of meat in my bowl. He also helped me ladle a bowl of porridge and put in front of me. His expression was very serious. He looked at me and said, "Eat." Han Hao looked at Duamuke and said, Shaoli said she can do it herself. Let's not get her any more food. Look, her bowl is full." Chapter 162. Duamuke glared at Han Hao. He lowered his voice and said, "I know. It's none of your business." Seeing Duamuke say that, Han Hao shook his head helplessly. I said in a low voice, "You two should eat. I haven't asked you why you came to my house to eat." Han Hao sighed and looked at me. "I was worried about your health, so I came. It was just in time for dinner, so Uncle and Auntie asked me to stay and eat." I turned and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "What about you? Why did you come here?" Duanmuke didn't look at me. He just said, "Same as him." After Duanmuke said that, Han Hao and I were stunned. I helplessly looked at him and then at Han Hao. Han Hao's face turned red. Obviously, he wasn't happy with this reason. Seeing that the atmosphere between the two of them was getting more and more awkward, I had to find a topic to break the ice. I lowered my voice and said, Okay. If there's nothing else after dinner, you two should go home. It's getting late." Before Duanmuke and Han Hao could say anything, my mother looked at us. She smiled and asked, "Li Er, what were you three talking about? Tell us and share it with us." My mother obviously didn't notice the tense atmosphere on my side. I forced a smile and said, "Mom, we didn't talk about anything. We didn't talk about anything." I didn't know if my mother would believe me, or if she'd noticed something and asked me on purpose. Before I could open my mouth, Duanmuke put down his chopsticks. He looked at my father and mother and said, "Dad, Mom, thank you for your hospitality. I came here for something." Then Duanmuke took out an envelope from his pocket and handed it to my father. He looked at my father and said, "Uncle, this is a check for 1 million RMB. Please accept it." Everyone present looked at Duanmuke in a daze. I was also very confused. Was this the breakup fee he was giving to our family? My father looked at the envelope and then looked at Duanmu, Quebec, Xiaoke. What's the meaning of this? Duanmuke looked at my father and said, "Dad, I heard that you've been financing a project recently. It should be a new project imported from abroad. This project hasn't been done in yet. I'm very interested. This 1 million RMBs as my financing fee. Dad, tomorrow, I'll arrange my secretary to send you a document. It's about the investigation data. It's very detailed." My father's expression changed. I could feel that his heart was already blooming with joy, but he still tried his best to keep his expression calm. That expression of a smile that wasn't a smile made me feel especially uncomfortable. My father looked at Duanmuke and said, "How did you get this survey data?" I also asked someone to get it, but I couldn't get the detailed information. What I got was what I already knew. Your information wouldn't be the same as what I know, right? Any smart person would be able to understand the hidden meaning in my father's words. If Duanmuke's information was something that my father didn't have, then my father would definitely accept his favor and even obtain the data he wanted. If Duanmuke's information was roughly the same as what my father knew, then it would mean that my father had indirectly rejected Duanmuke's advances. Duanmuke smiled and looked at my father. "Dad, don't worry. I asked my American classmate to help me buy this information from abroad. Of course, the price is definitely higher than the information itself. I think you should understand this. This information isn't very useful to me, but if it's for you, I think it will be very useful." Duanmuke must have done a lot of preparation before he dared to come to my house and try to curry favor in front of everyone. I could also feel that my father was blooming with joy. I turned to look at Han Hao. His expression was very ugly. Uxin couldn't bear it, so she reached out and held Han Hao's hand. He froze for a moment, then looked at me and smiled. His smile was very bright. I smiled back at him. This kind of silent encouragement was better than anything else. However, when Han Hao and I looked at each other, Duanmuke's expression changed. He looked at Han Hao and asked, "Xiao Hao, I remember you told me that you also came here to give Mom and Dad something, right?" Obviously, Duanmuke was arguing. He probably did this to put Han Hao on the spot. My mother looked at Han Hao and said, "Aya, next time you young people come to my house, you don't have to buy anything for us. As long as you want to come and play, you can come at any time. There's no need to bring things every time. Seeing you happy makes us happy." Duanmuke looked at Han Hao and said, "Since Mom said so, you should take out the things you prepared." Han Hao still sat there with his head lowered. He clenched his fists tightly. I could feel that he wasn't very happy. At this time, Xinyao whispered to me, "Sister-in-law, what should we do now?" I helplessly shook my head and said to Xinyao, "Let's just act according to the situation. This meal is like a battle. It's too frightening." Han Hao raised his head and took out a pair of bracelets from his pocket. They were sparkling and translucent purple. They were very beautiful. Even an outsider like me could tell that they were good stuff. Sure enough, my mother's eyes were deeply attracted to the bracelets. Han Hao held the bracelets in front of my parents. He looked at them and said, "Uncle, Auntie, I heard that Auntie likes to collect jade. This is a violet jade bracelet that one of my antique friends found for me. I've had it appraised in many places, and they all said it was a fake. It should be good stuff. That's why I brought it this year to Auntie. My mother hurriedly put down her bowl and chopsticks. She took the bracelet and carefully examined it, nodding her head. From time to time, she would sigh softly and say, "It's really a good bracelet." Xiaohao, this bracelet must have cost a lot. It's too expensive. Give Auntie a price, and Auntie will reimburse you. My mother lovingly fiddled with the bracelet. It seemed that she really liked it and wanted to take it. Han Hao shook his head and said to my mother, "If Auntie likes it, then take it. I prepared it for Auntie, and it's not some old toy. I just heard that Auntie likes it, and I happen to have connections in this area. Since Auntie likes it so much, of course I'll give it to you. This bracelet suits you very well." My mother looked at Han Hao and smiled. "I'm so sorry for making you spend so much money. I really like it, so I'll take it. Thank you, Xiaohao, for your thoughtfulness." Hearing my mother praise Han Hao, I glanced at Duanmu, Quebec. His expression had also become very serious. It seemed that he wasn't happy either. Chapter 163. Duanmu and Han Hao both looked very serious. It seemed that they were really angry. I put down my chopsticks and looked at everyone. "I'm done eating. You guys can continue eating. I'm going to take a walk outside." As I stood up and prepared to leave, Duanmu and Han Hao also stood up. It seemed that the two of them were prepared to be my bodyguards and follow me to the end. I shook my head helplessly. At this time, my mother saw through my thoughts. She said to Duanmu and Han Hao, Xiaohao, after we finish eating, let's sit together and chat. Xinyao, accompany Li Er to the garden for a walk." Suri stood up and looked at my mother. "Madam, I'll go accompany milady. Xinyao wants to play with Susu." Xinyao looked at my mother and nodded. "Okay. Auntie, let Suri go. I bought some fruits on my way here. I'll make a fruit salad for everyone later. Then I'll go out." It wasn't easy for everyone to help me out, so I had to hurry out. I glanced at Han Hao and Duanmu and walked out of the dining room. Suri followed closely behind me. He didn't say a word. I knew that Suri was very loyal to me. From the first time I saw him, I knew that he was a very worthy friend. Suri and I went to the garden at home. There was a large rose pond here that my father had built for my mother. It was the only one in the whole of a city. It was my father's masterpiece and also my mother's masterpiece. It was also a symbol of their love. I looked at the garden full of roses, and my heart was in a mess. Suri stood on the side and looked at me. His expression was very calm. It seemed that he was already used to this. While admiring the garden full of roses, I asked Suri, "Is there anything you want to ask me?" Suri looked at me and sneered. "Milady, you know what I want to ask you." I reached out and touched a rose. I lowered my head and sniffed it. It was very fragrant. I sat next to the flower pond and looked at Suri. "I don't know what my answer is, but I don't want to give up on these two people, and I don't want to hurt them." Suri walked in front of me. He reached out and touched my face. He said softly, "Xiaoli, do you remember the first time we met? It was in the detention room at the police station. You should remember it." My face suddenly turned red. I looked at Suri and smiled. "Why do you make it sound so ambiguous? It's not like we're going to part forever. Xiaoli, when it was just the two of us, I didn't want to call you miss because I felt that this word separated us. When I first saw you, I thought that you were a very good woman. Your eyes were clear, but your eyes revealed a calmness as if you had experienced a lot of things, which made me have a whole new level of respect for you. At that time, I thought that I must be friends with you. Although our statuses were very different, I still wanted to give it a try. I thought that you were a very special friend. But after seeing so many things happen between you and Duanmu, it slowly erased your calm personality. You became prone to tears, you became irritable, and you even became hysterical. I saw all of this, but my heart ached. You shouldn't be like this. You became weak. Although, after the divorce, you did everything you could to hide the pain in your heart, but I could still feel that your heart was bleeding. Xiao Li, if there's something that you're holding back, you must say it out loud to feel comfortable. I didn't know why, but after hearing Suri's words, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing down my face. I turned around so that Suri wouldn't see me crying. I calmed down for a while. With my back facing Suri, I said, Suri, it's not that it's hard for me to choose, it's that I can't choose. The person I love, I can't be with him because the person I love can't come back to me. I've thought about it a lot. I'm doing all of this for his good. I don't want to give up, but I don't know what else to do. It's good to just look at him from afar. At least the best gift he has given me is the baby in my stomach. That's enough. Suri, I understand what you mean. I don't want to be strong now, but I have to be strong. There are still many things that I need to do. Suri turned me around. He looked at me and smiled. What are you going to do next? I sighed. Let's see what these two ancestors want to do next. I'll just play along with them. Besides, I don't have much time left in the country. I'll just play along with them. It's so fun. Sometimes, it's good to see them bicker. On the surface, it looks like they don't get along, but in reality, they have a very good relationship. Suri nodded and looked at me. Shaoli, I'm very grateful to you. Not only did you solve my work problem, but you also solved my family problem. You didn't dislike my identity, and you're still as good to me as before. You gave me opportunity after opportunity to work hard. Through you, I met Xinyao and successfully pursued her. Thank you so much. I looked at Suri and smiled. You don't have to say that. You're also very outstanding. You've done a lot of things for me. Now, my father appreciates your ability. I've told him that he'll give you a promotion. This way, your standard of living will improve and you'll have more savings. When the time comes, you'll at least have enough money to propose marriage to the Duanmu family. Although I know that the Duanmu-K's parents don't particularly care about money, they all want their daughter to marry a reliable man, right? You have to have confidence in yourself. We, the Red Minghui, will definitely be loyal to you. Suri smiled and looked at me. He reached out and patted my head. Silly, you should take care of yourself first. I can handle my own matters. I'm going to find Xinyao. Do you want to go back? I shook my head and looked at Suri. You go back first. I'll stay here for a while. Suri sighed. He took off his jacket and put it on me. He patted my shoulder and smiled. Then he turned and left. I stood by the rose pond, feeling the night breeze. I felt a lot more comfortable. After I told Suri my thoughts, I felt a lot more at ease. I looked at the roses and felt very comfortable. I touched my belly and thought about the baby growing day by day. I felt motivated. I had to live for myself. I didn't want to let those insignificant emotional entanglements affect my mood. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.